the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello and a good evening to you. It is Petrie here and I'm with you until 1 o'clock. And coming up at midnight, it is the hour-long phone-in. It is a full hour of just you and me chatting. So let's get to business as to what we're going to talk about. What I want to talk to you about, I found this story it wasn't that obvious a story, but I thought, oh, this is quite interesting. The Parliamentary Expenses Watchdog wants around 20 members of the public to take part in a review of how it sets MPs' pay. They want the Citizens Forum to help shape pay and expenses policy from the next year onwards. Now, this is after the MPs' pay has just rocketed. I think they gave themselves, it was either 12 or 22% last year, and they got a 2.8% this year. Their salary now, an MP's salary, this isn't the secretaries, they get more. Secretaries of State and things like that, they get more. But a basic salary for an MP is just under £100,000 a year. £93,904. That's how much they get in a basic salary. On top of that, as we know from the 2009 Telegraph story, which I still think was one of the greatest stories ever told, their expenses also add up to an enormous amount of money. And don't be fooled into thinking that this IPSA has changed anything really about their expenses. They get an awful lot of money on their expenses too. Not to mention their gas and electric bills and their second homes and their mortgage for their second homes or their rent for their second homes, all paid for by you and me, and their transport, which I suppose is fair enough. If they're travelling, if they've got a constituency, I don't know, in Liverpool, and they need to come to London for parliamentary business, then I guess that is a business journey and perhaps we should pay it. I don't know, we have to find out if they get first class or not, but anyway, that's fine. They do get first class, which I don't know many people would, but anyway. So this watchdog is legally mandated to review how it determines MPs' salaries and expenses following each general election. Previous reviews have used online consultations to gather views, but this is expected around 20 to 25 people will be recruited via postal lottery of 10,000 addresses with the aim of selecting a group that is broadly representative of the wider UK population. Oh, how I hope that they pick me. But I just want to know how you think we should set MPs' salaries and their expenses. How would you do it? If you're an accountant, I'd love to hear from you, because my accountant is brutal. He won't even let me charge my tax bill, a cup of coffee. If I would have, he'd go, no, because you would have had that cup of coffee anyway, wouldn't you? At a breakfast meeting, so you would have had that anyway, so no, you can't have it as part of an expense. A sandwich at lunchtime? No. Even if you're away from your office or away from home, you would have had a sandwich anyway, so no, you can't charge for that. The same is not said for MPs and their expenses, right? So I want to know, if you're an accountant, brilliant. If you just would love to be on this, I'd love to have a go at this, on this panel. But how do you think we should set MPs' salaries? How should they be done? I mean, a lot of people go, well, they should just get the average wage. But then you'd only get rich people who could afford to work as MPs, working as MPs, which has always been the argument of paying them just shy of 100 grand a year, because if we don't do that, we're not going to get good people. The trouble is that we're paying them, I think that's a massively fat salary. I could live on that quite happily. So I suspect you could as well. Should it be checked against what they do? Should there be some way of measuring how they perform? Most people on that sort of salary in the private sector, it would be performance related, right? Anyway, you tell me, what do you think? How do you think that the MPs' salaries and their expenses should be set? Give me a call. 0344 499 1000, and you can text the word talk and your message to 87 excuse me 222. And you can send a WhatsApp as well to that same phone number, 0344 499 1000, or indeed a short voice note. So that's how you get in touch throughout the evening. And that's coming up at midnight. Before then, we have Phil Dave in the studio to go through the newspapers for tomorrow, for Wednesday. We have Johnny Hearn in the studio talking movies, and Claire Bosey, the editor of Chef and Restaurant magazine, is here to talk to us about food and the impact on our food with this incredible weather. It's too hot, isn't it? Everything's dry. Anyway, so all of that is coming up. But first, Donald Trump and Elon Musk. Like, we knew from day one, we talked about it, that they were going to fall out, right? The two greatest egos possibly on the planet, coming together in a bromance of love and mutual respect, has catastrophically exploded. We knew it would, right? But it went quiet after a while. Do you remember the whole, oh, he's in the Epstein files, which I think we knew anyway. But and then it went quiet, and Elon Musk said, oh, I think I went too far. Well, since then, he's come back and he's saying this abomination of a bill, which, by the way, was passed in the Senate today by one vote. It was 50-50, and it was literally J.D. Vance that pushed his vote in there and got it over the line with this big abomination of a bill, or Trump call it his big beautiful bill. And Elon Musk has been very vocal about how awful this bill is for America and for Americans. So since then, Trump has said that he's going to look into deporting Elon Musk, or having DOGE, the Department of Government Ego Efficiency, looking into this, looking into him and possibly taking away all of his contracts that he gets, all these subsidies from government contracts. So it is becoming even nastier. I've got my popcorn. I'm watching this with interest. But I'll tell you somebody who will know exactly what's going on, and that is my next guest, Steve Siebold, who is an author, speaker on psychological performance training, and knows Donald Trump. Steve, it is so wonderful to speak to you again. Thank you for joining me.
Good to see you, Petrie.
Now, everybody could see this coming, right? This was never going to last. Just how bad could this get?
This is King Kong and Godzilla. I think we all remember how that went, and didn't go too well. Like you said, the battle of the massive egos is about to take place, and I think it's going to get very nasty.
The one thing that really intrigues me is, you know Donald Trump, you know the man. Is he somebody who, while he was madly in love with Elon Musk, would he have told Musk where the bodies were buried? Is he that sort of, I mean, I know he's not really a friend to anybody, but would he have sat there and said, oh, I've done this and I've done that? Because Elon Musk must have a lot of dirt on Trump, if that's the case.
I don't think so. He's not the conversational type. Right. And frankly, Trump doesn't know where the bodies are buried. He's an ignoramus. I mean, he doesn't study, he doesn't read. He's played everything his entire life off as inheritance, and bullying people and suing companies and organizations and that kind of thing. So I don't know that he would have shared anything that Musk could really use on him. But obviously, Musk Musk put him in the White House this time with his money and influence, and I think that's the only reason he kept him around.
But do you think that Musk must know something? Because he's already said, look, I could escalate this. I'm not going to for now. Would Trump be scared of him in any way, or is that sort of narcissistic behaviour just doesn't even allow that to penetrate him, that this guy could damage him?
Oh, it's definitely possible. I mean, he's got the money to find out. I mean, maybe the Jeffrey Epstein case, I don't know. I'm not sure about that, but there's some Russian involvement. I mean, a lot of us in the States here think that Trump has been connected to Russia for a long time, and Putin's got something on him. I mean, he sure acts that way if it's not the case.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think Trump should be pretty worried about this, and Musk should be equally worried.
So they I mean, it seems to me that even if it's an act of self-harm, they would rather harm each other. For example, the whole idea that you could deport Elon Musk. I suppose that he could revoke his right to remain. But then if you deport him, how much of America is run on Elon's satellites, or how much, how intertwined is government with Elon Musk and with his technology? It seems very short-sighted that Trump would almost rather get rid of Elon just to win than to think it through to the logical conclusion that if you do that, this man, because of you, Donald Trump, has got an enormous amount of power over the American government.
Oh yeah, you just described Donald Trump in a nutshell. I mean, he'll do things just for optics, just for the way they look, and he really can't deport Elon Musk. Well, Musk has been a citizen of the U.S. since 2002, so that's 23 years. He can't deport him, and unless he finds some kind of loophole that I don't know about. I don't think he can actually deport him. And to your point, it's only going to hurt him. It's going to hurt the country. It's going to hurt him. There's so many things. The thing is, Trump just doesn't care. He's completely transactional and ego-driven, and that really is what runs his life.
Nobody is saying to him, look, go easy on Musk, because he holds, he's got the off-on switch for American technology.
No, you'd think that would be the case, but you can't talk like that to Donald Trump. You just can't. You just have to praise him. That's the only way you can really get in on the inner circle, or even really have any kind of real connection with Trump. Is you have to praise him and tell how smart he is and how great he is. It sounds like you're talking about a 12-year-old, or maybe not. Maybe that's an insult to a 12-year-old.
Yeah.
But that's actually how he is. That's how he is in person, and that's how he is in politics.
I mean, it was quite the extraordinary thing and made me sick to my stomach, I have to be completely honest with you, when Mark Rutte called him Daddy. I mean, I still can't, I cannot, it makes me feel sick. But this idea that everyone's so sycophantic to him, at what point does he lose that level of power over everyone? It's extraordinary.
It really is. You would think it would have happened by now,
Yeah.
but it hasn't. It's just they just keep sucking up to him and feeding his ego, because I really believe they're just terrified of him. The entire Republican Party here is terrified of this man. And to your point about politicians, you were saying earlier, they're all rich. Here, they're all rich people. I mean, almost all of them are multimillionaires. Some of them are billionaires. So they don't need the money, but I think they fear losing their power, because if Daddy, as you mentioned, goes after him, that's the end of it. It's absolutely pathetic, Petrie. It's just, we're just sickened here in the States.
I mean, I've, as you know, I watch all the time with complete fascination. I'm obsessed with what's going on over in the States. I'm obsessed and disgusted. I cannot believe that Kristi Noem and Trump and Cruz think it's funny to call a detention centre Alligator Alcatraz. I find it... I don't have the emotional capacity, actually, to understand why that is entertaining to those people.
Yeah, millions of us here feel the same way. It's just sick. I mean, there just seems to be no low. It's just a new low all the time with these people. And Trump he seems to be emboldening these people, like Ted Cruz, who's one of the most unpopular, people in Washington. That is a guy that no one really likes. But it seems like he's made them worse. He's made the bad ones worse. And then the ones who are moderates, he's just made them sycophants. I mean, they're just sucking up to him. And it just keeps going lower and lower. And we're not even 6 months into this thing.
No, and it hasn't reached the the bottom yet. Every time you think it has, there's another low. I've been watching a lot of ICE arrests or kidnaps as well, and seeing those from citizen journalists bravely filming what's been going on, and it again, I find it absolutely heartbreaking, and I just don't understand how Amnesty isn't involved. I don't understand how The Hague isn't involved. I'm finding it very difficult. It's almost like I'm seeing something that nobody else is seeing, and I'm the mad one.
Oh no, you're not the mad one. A couple hours ago, I was in our local gym here working out, and there were a bunch of Mexican kids in there, probably 20, 25 of them working out. They seemed to know each other. And a man came in a uniform. He was not an ICE agent. I looked, but he had some kind of military uniform on, and they literally ran from the gym to the locker room, 25 kids. Because everyone's terrified here that they're going to be deported, and it's just, I mean, they're literally pulling up in vans with masks on, like they did in Nazi Germany, you know, and they're detaining these people, and they're sending them places we don't even know where they are, half of them, and it's just beginning.
And 13, as far as we know, 13 deaths in these detention camps. One of them Canadian. I thought we'd hear more from Canada on that, to be honest with you. But again, at what point is this enough? Because although the politicians seem to be fighting back, and even that vote today on the big beautiful bill, it was 50-50 because 3 Republicans didn't go along with it. That would have been scary for them to do that. They needed 4 so that Vance's extra vote didn't amount to anything, but 3 did. But politically, nothing seems to be happening, or if it is happening, it's happening with honesty and truth, whereas the other side are behaving like the Gestapo. So, you know, when do both sides match up at the energy, if you know what I mean?
Yeah, we're trying from the outside. I mean, we had a 10 million person march, you know, a few weeks back.
It's amazing.
And biggest march in American history. We were out there for hours, and people all over the country were out there. I mean, people are absolutely just frightened, livid, frightened, all those things. But, you know, going back to the big, beautiful bill, as Trump likes to call it, if it passes in the House, and it most likely will, $30 billion is allocated toward hiring more ICE agents to do these kidnappings, you might call them. And so there's all kinds of funding for this. It's really just in the beginning stages. And then the alligator Alcatraz, which you mentioned that they just built in Florida, that Trump was bragging about, that, you know, if they escape, well, they get eaten by the alligators. That's fantastic for our president to say. And so this is the beginning, Petrie, unfortunately.
I mean, I saw there were some images of inside that camp, and I showed them to my producer, and I said, you know what, if it looks like a concentration camp and it sounds like a concentration camp, that's what it is. I mean, these are horrible places, and people are dying in them, and they're overcrowded. And this place in the alligator Alcatraz is supposed to hold 5,000 people. Many of them will never see due process.
Oh, absolutely true. And it's going to cost us $450 million a year to have those 5,000 people in this concentration camp, as you rightly called it. $450 million a year, supposedly from the president, who's so fiscally responsible, and he wants to trim the debt, when this big, beautiful bill is going to increase it, according to the Congressional Budget Office, the CBO, by $3.3 trillion over the next 10 years. I mean, this is all just a big optics play by Trump. It's just disgusting.
And of course, we know that he promised several times he wasn't going to touch Medicare or Medicaid. Definitely wasn't going to happen. But it looks like now millions upon millions of Americans will lose their health care cover.
Yeah, they're saying 12 to 15 million people. And, you know, Medicaid in this country, for people that don't know overseas, that's when you have $2,000 or less of assets, which means your clothes, anything you own can't add up to more than $2,000. That's how you qualify for Medicaid. And I mean, that it's almost impossible to do that. Your clothes are worth that much. I mean, if you just your shoes and just things, your glasses. And I mean, so these are people that have nothing. And he has no problem taking away people that have nothing. This is how they survive. Plus, he's cutting SNAP benefits, which is basically food stamps here, and for children, for adults, for disabled people. I mean, he just doesn't care. He has no empathy.
But how is he getting this past MAGA? How are they in the red states? Some of the poorest in America, right? They're the ones that have the most social aid, is the red states that voted for Donald Trump. How are they not going to feel this?
Oh, they're going to feel it. There's no other way around it. Just like they're feeling with all these immigrants being deported. The farms can't operate. The restaurants can't find enough people to work. The roofers can't find people to climb up on roofs. The people that cut down trees. I mean, these are all immigrants working for barely enough money to survive. And Americans are not going to take those jobs. They're too spoiled, and they can't afford to take them as well. And you're right, though. You'd think they would stand up. But MAGA just is terrified of this man. They worship him on one side, and on the other side, they're terrified of him.
But they will find out.
They will find out eventually. There's no question. You're right. The red states are the poorest, and it's going to hurt the red states the most.
What does Donald?
It's like watching a bad movie.
Yeah, it really is. With no end at the moment. What is next for Donald Trump? I mean, he's just been handed more power by the courts. That there can't be any sort of blanket denial of one of his executive orders. Now it has to be done by individual state and possibly individual person. Where does he go next?
I think this whole thing goes toward Christian nationalism. You know, the far right in this country wants to make this a Christian national organ. You know, basically running on what the Bible says. And that's going to be our law. I mean, that's what they've wanted for many years. I think they're going to go after gay marriage. You know, they've already struck down Roe v. Wade, the right to an abortion, which we had for 50 years, and people have died since then. I mean, obviously, it's, you know, they'll cut the food stamps for poor kids, but they won't allow abortion. So let's bring more kids into the country, have them come in, but let's not feed them. Let's let them starve to death. I mean, it's just shameful.
Yeah, I mean, it's Gilead. It's Gilead. That's what I see when I look at America. I really do. Steve, it's always such a pleasure to talk to you. I hope we get to do it again soon. And just know that not everybody this side of the pond has bought into MAGA, okay? We're all quite...
We appreciate you, Petrie. We appreciate your support anywhere we can get it these days.
You've definitely got mine. Steve Siebold there, author and speaker on psychological performance training. Right, quick break, back in a sec.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there. Yes, it is Talk, and it's Petrie here with you until 1 o'clock, and it's also competition time. Here at Talk, we're giving you the chance to win a pair of Oasis tickets. It's for Manchester on July the 19th. We'll also put you up in a hotel and give you £5,000 worth of spending money. Here's how you enter.
On iArcade, you have to be over 18 to enter in the UK, excluding Northern Ireland, for the chance to win a pair of tickets to the most electrifying rock and roll reunion of the century, a hotel stay and £5,000 spending money. Text the word WIN to 83338 by Monday the 7th of July at 11 p.m, and you'll be entered into the draw to go supersonic this summer. Text costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. You must have the bill payer's permission, or post your name and number to Oasis Prize Draw, PO Box 3190, Colchester CO2 8GP, to arrive by 5 p.m. on the 10th of July. This is a TalkSport limited promotion run on TalkSport, Talk and Virgin Radio UK stations. Full T's and C's at talksport.com. Good luck, yeah? Sorted.
So good luck with that, and get on with it if you want to win those tickets, because it's July already. Can you believe it? Right, coming up at midnight, the phone-in hour, I want to talk to you about how you would set MPs' pay. And the reason I'm asking that is because the Parliamentary Expenses Watchdog wants around 20 to 25 members of the public that will be chosen by lottery, so it could be you, as they say, it could be you, to form a citizens' forum, right, that will help shape pay and expenses policy from next year onwards. So actually, they're inviting the public to suggest how MPs should be paid, how much they should be paid, and how they should get their expenses. And I think their expenses should have to go through my accountant, because I get nothing. Nothing. Doesn't allow me anything. So I'd really want to know how you think we should set that. If you work for a business, right, what are your expenses like? What do you have to do for your expenses? Because they seem to be getting away with so much, these MPs. Their salary is just under £100,000 a year for being an MP. And then on top of that, they don't have to spend any of that, really, on living. Everything else seems to be paid for. Perhaps you were once an MP, or perhaps you are an MP and you'd like to give me a call. I'd love to hear from you, see what how you think you should be paid. We all know how you will vote for your own pay rises, don't you? Even though Ipsos says, oh no, it's not up to them, it's us. But anyway, I want to know, how do you think MPs should be paid? Should it be based on performance? Should it be based on how many hours they're actually in Parliament? Should it be based... I mean, I personally think as well, if they want to get that full salary, they should never be allowed to abstain from a vote. We pay them to vote on our behalf. That's the whole point of them, right? So they get the information from you. So, for example, if you don't want zebra crossings in your town, then there's a vote in the House about zebra crossings, and they take your opinion, not theirs. Fat chance. And then they issue that vote, right, based on what you want. That's how it's meant to work. It isn't how it works, obviously. But also they can abstain, or just not vote, or just, I just don't, or vote. I mean, it's just ridiculous. No. You have to be there at every vote, and you have to vote yay or nay. Simple as that. Otherwise, you don't get paid. That's what I'd do. Give me a call, 0344 499 1000. Calls, by the way, are charged at a national rate, but we do call you back.
UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there, this is Talk and it's Petrie here with you until 1 o'clock. Coming up, just to let you know, Johnny Hearn will be here to go through some movies for us. I'm looking forward to Meghan too. It's not Harry's wife, Meghan, it's the other one. So I'm looking forward to that. And then at the top of the hour, Phil Dave will be here, Talk broadcaster and editor, to go through the newspapers for Wednesday. Now, though, we are talking food. This is because, of course, this hot weather will be impacting not only what food we eat now, but what we get to eat later. Because if it's too dry, things might not quite make it. Claire Bosey joins us now, who's editor of Chef and Restaurant magazine. I haven't seen you. You had your hair cut?
Yes, I have actually.
Oh,
you're right.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm just still torn on the performance-related pay for MPs. I mean, but if the hospitality sector had anything to do with it, there would not be a lot on their pay packet.
No, I know, but you don't have your own MP, do you?
We don't. We have nobody representing the third largest workforce in the UK as an entirety. It's split into two. Anyway, we're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about produce because that would just take over the rest of your show. But how are you?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. Yeah, I've missed you. I haven't seen you for ages.
I've been chasing chefs around Venice this weekend.
Oh, very nice. Oh, did you see Jeff Bezos?
We saw several celebrity, a little bit of celebrity spotting. We might have seen the daughter of a certain president. And some A-list Hollywood actors wandering around Venice, but yeah, we were there to work. It was all work.
Yes, no, of course. Right, let's talk about food because the impact of this hot weather. A lot of farmers. I've seen some cattle farmers talking about it and talking about how difficult it is now for them in the meat market. What about with us, with vegetables and other foods like that?
That's it. I mean, whilst so many people are celebrating how lovely and sunny it is outside and being able to actually sit in the garden and do some sunbathing or sweat on the tube or whatever. I've been speaking to some of our British food producers and food growers, and I work with a company called Valimex in London, and they deal with lots of British independent growers and farmers, and they supply chefs, but they also supply the public as well. And it's tough for them at the moment. Things like down in Kent, so strawberries, raspberries, blackberries, cherries are coming in so thick and fast. But these growers usually plant them so they have a harvest every couple of weeks to have a consistent supply. Everything has suddenly started growing. It's overtaken, it's joined up. There's a huge glut of berries around at the moment. And the thing about them is that because of the extended daylight and high sunshine and the warmth, they've got a very, very high sugar content, which makes for incredible eating. But they are producing more than there is demand for at the moment. So everybody needs to be getting out there and buying some British berries because, I mean, let's face it, in 26 weeks' time, people will be buying inferior strawberries for their trifles at Christmas. And the message is, go out there and buy it now. Freeze it, because if you wash it, dry it properly so there's no water around it, and freeze it, you'll have incredible British berries for your Christmas puddings rather than going and buying imported flavorless berries. And jams, sorbets, whatever. But these producers and growers have had tough years, year on year, for the last few years. And again, this is, at the moment, of course, it's incredible to see them everywhere, but they're producing more than there is demand for. So people really need to get out and support these farmers, buy as many berries of all shapes and sizes as you can. And if you can't eat them as a family, preserve them. You bake, you cook, how easy it is to make a jam. It's so simple. It's a great Christmas present. Make loads of jam, give it to people for Christmas.
That's what you're getting.
Thanks. The thing that you're getting, because this is where there's another surplus, is we were talking to a farmer called Chris Molyneux up in Lancashire, and his brassicas have gone crazy. So a brassica is anything with edible stalk and leaves and flowers. So your broccolis, your cauliflowers, your kale, your cabbages. Again, the same thing is happening. They're all producing so much at the moment, more than there is demand for. So that's for your Christmas present. So again, we need to be buying as much of that as possible, because in the Midlands and in the East, potato farmers are struggling at the moment because there's no water. There's a huge shortage of water. The ground is really, really dry. What's going to happen is we are going to get water soon. It's bound to break the weather, and then they become flooded. The water can't go into the soil. It either floods a field or it just runs straight off. So we have some incredible food producers in the UK. Often the two companies that I've mentioned, they're small family independent companies. They're not big chains, they're not big corporations. They're family members. The kale company, the Lancashire brassica company, it's like a fourth generation family.
Wow.
This is been doing for.
And the climate must be changing how they're thinking of growing, because like you said, with the strawberries and things, it is all spaced out so that they can continuously supply a supermarket with fresh produce. Now we've got this glut, and the price of berries has come down, which is not going to be good for them, because the big superstores are going to buy them cheaper because there's so many of them. We know the economies of scale like that. So how can they must be planning now for a future that they don't really quite know what it's going to be.
Yeah, I mean, there's kind of loads of innovation happening in the British produce growing world at the moment, and everybody's looking to be far more sustainable. There are certain kind of research and development in coming up with varieties of berries or vegetables that aren't so water hungry, or that they can stagger. They can stagger out easier throughout the year. I mean, at the moment in Kent, there's blackberries. It's the 1st of July.
Wow.
Berries are already to be
already. They're not normally until August, September, right?
Everybody else assumes, you consider blackberries to be an early autumn fruit.
Yeah.
Beginning of summer fruit, but there are blackberries now. So there are organisations that do it on behalf of British growers. Independents, they can't afford to run a whole research and development laboratory, but there are kind of seed producers trying to work quite cleverly to create varieties that can adapt to the ever-changing climate. Because you don't know, it could be next year we have an ordinary wet British summer. It's
exactly. That's the thing, is that you just don't know. I mean, Bill Gates has done a lot of work. I know he's had people do a lot of work for him in Africa to be able to produce edibles that grow in very arid, but that's a regularly arid system. So if we've got rain and then sun, if we don't know which direction this is going to go into.
Yeah.
But I suppose it's good for wine in the UK. So it'd be good for grapes and people like that who want that quick mass production of fruits.
And you know what I mean, this was spotted, like England's the potential for England to grow some really good wines was spotted by leading champagne vineyards probably about 25 years ago, who bought up a lot of land and have been planting. The vines are probably kind of 15 to 20 years old now, and there are some fantastic English wines. My problem, not my problem, but my concern with English wine per se is the price point tends to be, it's a small yield. They don't produce hundreds of thousands of bottles like a vineyard could in or a region could in France. So the price tends to be quite high. And the kind of psychology between, do you want to spend 50 quid on a bottle of champagne, a bottle of really, really good Prosecco, or a bottle of English wine, people still in this country tend to steer towards champagne or Prosecco. In the States, they really, really, really like English wine. Not quite sure the French have quite taken to it yet, but we are. And strangely, I've tried some fantastic sparkling Welsh wines. There's some really good Welsh wines as well, but the bottle price because they're small vineyards, high costs, the bottle price tends to be on the higher side. So it's a case of, if you're going to spend 50 quid, why not try a really good bottle of English sparkling wine, because they are delicious.
And the other question I want to ask you is about seasonality. You and I are quite big on looking at foods that are in the right season, because then they taste better. But if you've already got cauliflower and broccoli and things like that exceeding its growth expectation, where the seasonal foods are going to become quite complicated, right?
Yeah. I mean, it will change over time. There's a really famous chef from the UK actually who also has a second restaurant in Malta, and he grows all his own produce in the UK, in Cumbria, and he's huge about field to fork, and he opened his restaurant in Malta, and he said the most extraordinary thing there is they have 2 seasons. So that they have two growing seasons, so they can produce the same produce twice in a year.
Wow.
That ordinarily in the UK we'd produce once in a year. But things are changing. Like I said, I chatting today to find out that blackberries are in full season just seems extraordinary. When we were kids, it would be as you're going to school picking blackberries from the hedge.
After the summer holidays. Exactly that. One of my favourite days of the year on Monday, World Chocolate Day. Where is you should have had chocolate sent to the studio. Where is it?
Do you know what they were in the Uber, but it's just too warm. And apparently your air conditioning is not working very well. Producer said air conditioning, so I didn't want to just get you covered.
My air conditioning in here is fine. It's that lot. They don't count. They can sweat. Yeah, they can sweat. So it's World Chocolate Day, and British. We don't have British chocolate though, surely.
We have. Well, there are some. I mean, of course, all chocolate comes from cacao. Cocoa. But so the 7th of July, World Chocolate Day, to celebrate the fact that chocolate has been introduced to Europe since the 16th century. But what I kind of wanted to kind of tell all the audience about is that everybody just assumes that the best chocolatiers are Swiss, French, Belgian, and you don't kind of consider British chocolatiers. And we actually have some proper leading chocolatiers making like handmade chocolates in the UK now. And there's one in central London, in Covent Garden, and run by a Michelin-starred chef called Adam Handling. He treats chocolate the same way that wine is treated. So if you think that a Chardonnay grape is different to a Pinot Grigio grape is different to a Syrah grape, it's exactly the same with cocoa, right? So the different cocoa from different regions, different soils, all have different flavour profiles, different mouthfeels, different aromas. So his chocolate shop in Covent Garden makes handmade chocolates based on single origin chocolate, which
Didn't you bring me some of the origin chocolate once? Yeah, to taste. Oh my God, it's so amazing.
And it is so
really has different tastes. Yeah,
it is so different. And the second one is a guy who you've met actually, based up in Leeds, called Stephen Trigg, who's Loudon Chocolate, and he's actually a World Chocolate Master. And World Chocolate Master is one of what is the biggest chocolate competition in the world, and he represented the UK, and he creates. All of these chocolates can be bought by anybody, but he creates all the chocolates for super exclusive airlines and hotels, some incredibly famous chefs, some proper AAA list celebrities and royal families and everything. But you can actually buy his chocolates as well online. And he represented the UK in World Chocolate Masters, which is notoriously super hard to get into. And then we have a guy in Norfolk called Gary Hunter. Again, you've met him. He used to be the vice principal of Westminster Kingsway College, but he's a pastry chef by original profession, and he's trained so many chocolatiers. And he now has a little artisan chocolate business in Holt, creating the most. These chocolatiers are just. They're coming up with new flavors and new techniques and new ideas, and they're standing alongside in the company of the best chocolatiers in the world. But I'm sure if you said to a lot of people where are the best chocolatiers from, they'll go, oh, Belgium, oh,
yeah, you would think it would be Switzerland or France. But you need to get those three to send us some samples, and
you could do a taste test.
I would do a taste test, and then I'll let them know who's won.
Yeah,
because I know about chocolate, as you know. Listen, it's been fabulous to see you. I hope I see you in person really soon. But take care. That's Claire Bosey there, editor of Chef and Restaurant magazine, and in case you hadn't guessed it, she's my favourite person on the planet. Indeed, she's my sister. Anyway, so a quick break, back in a sec.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there, this is Talk, and it's Petrie here with you until 1 o'clock. Coming up at the top of the hour, we have Phil Dave, but right now Johnny Hearn is in the studio, filmmaker, broadcaster and talk film reporter. Got a couple of movies for us, John.
Yes, hello.
Hello. Yeah,
Yes.
You're looking very relaxed, a bit brown.
Thank you.
Been sitting in the sunshine.
I have. I spent the day in the park. It was lovely. I decided to do nothing today.
Nice.
And
It was the
great.
weather for it.
Oh, it was lovely. If you're going to do nothing, pick a hot day.
Yeah, I did nothing as well. It's great. I like doing nothing. I'm very good at it.
I'm terrible at it.
really
I'm
good
really
at it.
bad at doing nothing. I have to force myself to do nothing.
Oh no, I'm a master at it. Olympian. Right, talk to me about F1.
F1. Okay, so this is the new big flagship summer blockbuster movie starring Brad Pitt. Now, Brad Pitt plays a washed-up former Formula One racing driver. Now, Brad Pitt is now at that age where every character pretty much he plays is a washed-up something. He was a washed-up actor in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. He's going to be a washed-up something in everything he does. This one, washed-up Formula racing F1 racing driver who suffered a terrible accident just as his career was starting to go somewhere, and he's ended up just sort of slumming around, just racing for hire kind of thing. When into his life steps Javier Bardem, who's an old friend of his, used to race with him on the circuit in the 90s, who now runs a team ironically called Apex because they're right at the bottom of the standings. Of the 11 teams in F1, they've never finished in the top 10, right? That's how bad they are. They're coming to the end of the third season, and if they don't win a race by the end of the season, the team's going to be sold. Javier Bardem's going to be out on his ear. And so he takes a gamble, brings in the washed-up racing driver in Brad Pitt to come in and try and shape the team and win a race, and also to inspire and guide their rookie driver, who's their other driver, who's a brilliant talent, but he's very young and inexperienced. And of course, the two of them clash because one is the old guy coming in, who's very much a maverick. He's a dangerous driver. He's unpredictable. Whereas the young driver, played by Damson Idris, is very by the book. But he's doing it for the money and the fame and the wealth.
Can I just ask, is the Idris the Idris? Are they related?
Idris. No, it's not. It's not Idris Elba. No, it's Damson Idris.
Oh, Dan.
Yes. But he's in it for the fame and the money. Brad Pitt's in it just because he has to drive cars fast, and so that literally is the entire story. The story is paper thin. You're not going to get in-depth characterization and intense plotting here. What you are going to get is Brad Pitt in a car driving very fast and then looking very sultry at the camera occasionally.
Okay, and they did all their own driving, didn't they?
They did, actually. I'll come on to that in a minute, but the driving scenes were brilliant. Yes, they did. The two of them drove, especially adapted, they were F2 cars, and they had electric engines put in there, and there had cameras mounted on them, specially designed IMAX cameras, tiny little things. And they drove around the circuits at speeds of up to 180 miles an hour. Not quite as fast as Formula One drivers, but I mean pretty terrifyingly fast. And you can tell that they really are driving those kind of speeds. It's not like they were pottering along at 50 mile an hour and they sped the film up. Yeah, they clearly are driving at those speeds. And the driving scenes are absolutely phenomenal. It doesn't matter that the story is paper thin. Yeah. It doesn't matter. The driving scenes are really what sell this film.
Have we got a clip?
We do.
Let's have a look or a listen to F1.
Some people look at Sonny Hayes. They see a guy who lives in a van, a gambling junkie who missed his shot, the best that never was. But I see possibility.
And if you don't love me now, we'll never.
My Rook is a phenomenal talent, but he's young.
When was the last time you won a race?
Sunday, Daytona.
Oh, I'm sorry. I meant Formula One.
Oh, I'm sorry. Then same as you.
They're saying Sonny Hayes isn't a has-been. He's a never was.
If the last thing I do is drive that car, I will take that life, man. 1,000 times.
Very dramatic. I tell you what, I can't look at Javier Bardem without seeing him as a villain, though.
Oh, he was one of the best Bond villains ever.
I think
Absolutely.
the best, the creepiest, scariest Bond villain.
I think Javier Bardem is the finest screen actor alive today.
Yeah.
I do. I absolutely adore him.
I agree. I think he's
actor.
Extraordinary.
And he's fantastic in this.
Yeah. So that's a 12A, it's 2 hour 35 and it's in cinemas now, F1 the movie. What about Megan 2.0? This is a 15, 2 hours in cinema.
So this is a follow-up to the film Megan that was
saw that
2 years ago.
I did watch it.
The weird robot doll that So the story of the first Megan was this a scientist has to look after her niece after her sister dies, and she doesn't quite know what to do with her, but she created this sort of friend, life-size friend. Sort of about the size of a 11, 12-year-old child who is basically an android, but will bond with that person and look after them and protect them. But then she goes a little bit rogue, and her programming goes haywire.
She breaks her programming.
Ends up killing people and stuff.
So to protect the little girl.
To protect the little girl, yes, of course. So this is now set a couple of years later,
right?
And what's happened is the technology that was used to create Megan has been stolen. Or it was leaked somehow, and a kind of version of her called Amelia has been released as a weapon, a military weapon, and the US government are trying to use that, but this weapon then goes rogue and is hunting down all the people that were implemented in the designing of this android, and of course
they weren't very good programmers, were they?
No. And of course this woman and her daughter are kind of next on the list, and so they end up having to remake Megan in order to protect them from the sort of nasty spin-off that's coming. So Yeah, it's kind of like, it reminds me of the Terminator film. So the first one, Arnold Schwarzenegger played the Terminator and he was the bad guy. And then in the second one, he's the Terminator, but he's the good guy defending people
Because that didn't confuse me at all at the time.
Defending people from an even worse one. This is kind of exactly the same. It's a cross between Terminator and Chucky, basically.
Oh, great. Because there's nothing creepy about Chucky either.
No,
I hate dolls. Dolls are creepy. Right, we've got a trailer for this, Megan 2.0.
Mrs. Forrester, we have a problem. We're hunting an autonomous android named Amelia. She was built using your design for Megan.
How's this possible? You deleted it.
Apparently you didn't. Nothing in our arsenal can stop her. She's gone rogue, killing anyone who's contributed to her creation.
I think I did it up.
And you and Katie are next.
Look, she wants to help us. Everyone deserves a second chance.
You would like us to rebuild a deranged robot in order to catch another one.
Would you prefer I gave you a printout that you can read at your own pace?
Okay, Megan, time to give you an upgrade. Anything you'd like to add?
I want to be stronger, faster. Hey, so remember the time I strangled you and set the lab on fire? I want you to know that won't happen again.
Thank you so much.
They made her bigger, taller.
Yes. Yeah, because the actress that played Megan obviously has grown up in the last 2 years, and so they want the same actress. So they had to. So there's a line in it where they said, "What do you want?" She said, "Can you make me taller?" So yeah,
right.
That's
that is a workaround. Right.
It is,
Okay.
yes.
So that's Megan. Just very quickly, because we've only got a minute to go. I wanted to ask you about James Bond.
Yes.
The new Bond director. I have a feeling these Bonds are going to be rubbish. Is it Amazon that's bought them?
Amazon bought them the rights to Bond from the Broccoli's, who made all of them apart from the spin-off one that Sean Connery made. Denis Villeneuve, the Canadian director, is going to direct it. Now he's a fantastic director. He did the Dune movies. He did Sicario. He did Blade Runner 2049. I mean, he can do it. I mean, he will deliver a great film. It's whether the actor who plays James Bond is going to be any good or not, because what Amazon have said is they want a British actor under the age of 30 to play this part. Now, the original character was in his mid to late 30s, and all the actors that have ever played Bond have been in their sort of late 30s, pretty much.
So
I just don't know whether they're going for the wrong audience here. I think maybe they're trying to go for a too young an audience. It's not going to be the same. The actors that they're looking at, I just don't think that
it'll be of those three. It'll be Jacob Elordi. That's my money's on that.
Me too.
Can't
but
be
I just
Tom
can't.
Holland.
I can't see him delivering it. Sorry,
John. Thank you. Papers are next.
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there, this is Talk and it's Petrie with you, and with me is the fabulous Phil Dave, who's broadcaster and editor here at Talk Towers.
Hello.
Hello.
Fancy seeing you here.
Fancy seeing you here. Thank you very much indeed for my Percy Pigs earlier. I just wanted to say
that was quite all right. Sorry, don't mind me, just adjusting an earpiece that's irritating me. Sorry. Very professional.
Phil went out.
You sure I'm a broadcaster? I don't think I've done this before.
Phil went out at the shopping and bought me back some sweeties, which is always very appreciated.
Shopping? I didn't exactly do a weekly shop.
You went
have to get a sandwich. Yeah.
Before we get into the papers, there's this new initiative for the public to be involved in setting parliamentary pay.
I like this.
Right. They want about 20-25 members. It'll be a lottery done, so I think I'd rather have the other lottery, but I'd go for this. I'd go into this.
Do the people who win get paid for their opinion?
They probably do, because most people do in this sort of thing. But basically, they want to ask the public how we think parliamentarians, MPs, should be paid, and also how they should get their expenses as well, and what expenses they should receive. I think it's a great idea. There should be more of these.
I think they're in for a very nasty shock. I don't think they'll implement a thing, by the way. They'll listen to it and they'll say, no, you're wrong. Because they always do that.
Yeah.
They ask the public for their opinion. And they,
like at an election, and then ignore the manifesto.
They'll just ignore it. So I wouldn't get too excited. But if you're asking me what would I do, I'd actually do it on a rating system. I would actually have it. We're so connected in this day and age. You know, everyone's got smart technology. Not everyone. A lot of people have got smart technology now, whether it be a computer, mobile phone, whatever it is, doesn't really matter. And I actually think that the public should be allowed once in a while, in exactly the same way we sort of occasionally do census, to determine the makeup of the population. I think we should sort of do like a political census, if you like, to sort of say who's performing the best. So in other words, be more like this MP, be less like this MP. And whoever wins the somewhat terrible position of being the worst ranked MP, I mean, I'd have it almost like Big Brother style. I'd boot them out of the Parliament straight away, because they're clearly not gelling with the public, so what's the point of them being there? But if we're being slightly more serious, I'd say that they should be the one who's used as something like as a barometer to determine who gets the lowest pay and those who gets the highest pay.
So performance related.
Exactly. Totally,
because there are a lot of constituency MPs that are never there, that never take care of their constituents, that people can't get help with schools
because
or
they're
with
not in it
whatever.
Because they're in it for themselves. Yeah. That's as simple as. I mean, anyone who's sort of any parliamentarian who claims otherwise, do me a favour, pull the other one, for crying out loud. If we don't know that the vast majority of MPs they may have started off with good intentions, but as soon as they get a little taster of the high life that they are afforded for being MPs, they then start sort of entering this
I mean, a lot of these people
dreaded Westminster bubble.
A lot of these people would not and could not make nearly 100 grand in the private sector. I guarantee it. You look at them; they're absolutely useless.
Diane
most of them.
Abbott.
Absolutely useless.
She'd be lucky if she makes 100 quid.
I mean, yeah, that's the thing, isn't it? But they
think
are
Diane
on
Abbott
nearly
might be on benefits, actually. You know? That's the way I think she'd wind up.
Oh, I just think the idea that we pay them nearly 100 grand a year because we want the best of the best is terrifying. Because if they are the best of the best, we're in much more trouble than I thought.
Well, I don't think it's a case of we want the best of the best, because if we did want the best of the best, then frankly the current shower wouldn't be in there. And I mean that across the board. I'm not talking about party politics here. To me, the whole blooming lot, the vast majority of parliamentarians are absolutely useless. I really can't stand the sight. You know, and don't even get me started on the Lords. But in terms of the way that they would actually sort of be rewarded for winning over their constituency and indeed sort of the general public as a whole, especially if they're a government minister, based on how they are rated. I think it could be very easy to do this and to monitor it. You know, all it would require is to say, you know, this is the what happened recently, here are the facts, this is what this MP said, how do you rate this? Was this a good reaction? Are you happy with this reaction? boom, right?
Just a bit more oversight, because actually at the moment they can do what the hell they like.
Yes.
And we don't necessarily... How many people really ever want to see their constituency MP? I don't think I have... I mean, I know my constituency personally, but that's not because he's my MP. But,
but you know that COVID was pretty much an excuse for them to wipe out any last remaining contact they had with their constituency, because they basically decided that COVID was a good excuse to bin off surgeries all over the place. So a lot of them don't even bother with them now.
But you just don't really get... I don't know. I don't know what... First of all, I don't know what they do in their constituencies. We're about to come into the summer break now. This is where MPs say, oh no, we don't have 11 weeks off. We work. You know, we're working in our constituencies, but I don't know that they are, and I don't know how many people actually get support from a constituency MP, and yet all of them blanketly get nearly 100 grand a year each. That's just your MP. That's not if you're a front bencher or you've got another brief, then you get paid even more. But it's something that they do without. Where's the oversight? We don't know what they're up to.
Time cards. They should literally be forced to stamp it or clock in and out of Parliament.
Yeah, we pay them. You know,
they clock in and out of Parliament, and I think they should. Well, because when you and I were working at our previous previous broadcasting organisation that we worked for, did you? I don't know about you, but I frequently got people saying, "I pay your wages," because it was a public broadcaster. I mean, there's pretty much only one, so you can guess which one it is. I just don't believe in giving them airtime, but. The upshot is that whenever anyone said that to me, I said, well, if that's the case, you can give me a pay increase, thanks.
Yeah, because it was rubbish, unless you were a clipboard Johnny.
I did respect the fact that it was sort of true. Yeah. The licence fee did pay my wages where I used to work.
But we also pay the licence fee. So we pay
that's a sackable offence. There are 3 things that are sackable offence within that. I don't know if it still is, but it's like almost written in Constitution. And one of them was not paying the licence fee.
Yeah.
So I can't remember the other 2.
But it's okay if you're a paedophile though. Or
I think okay is a strong word, but let's put it this way: it would certainly appear as though some people who got up to some very questionable behaviour didn't necessarily get the most fitting of punishment.
Yeah, that's very true, Hugh. So yeah. Anyway. Yeah, so they do work for us, we pay their wages, and we need more oversight, I think. What about their expenses? Because it was back in 2009, I think, when the Telegraph did their fantastic investigation. And since then, I don't think it's got that much better.
No, of course not. We just don't talk about it anymore. Yeah. That's what it is. I guess when it comes to expenses, it boils down to one very simple question. Was that expense because of work? And if it wasn't,
you can't claim it.
No. And even then, actually, I mean, you say sort of expenses, but let's look at somewhere like this place where we are at the moment. Now, I know that for health reasons that you're an exemption to this rule, but let's look at, for example, what we call our cab policy here. Our cab policy very clearly states that the cab policy is only active for employees between midnight and 6 a.m. That is because, obviously, we're a 24/7 building, and if you have people who either finish late after midnight or start before 6 a.m, getting to and from work is obviously very tricky, especially if you either don't drive or you don't necessarily have access to public transport at those times of the evening. As a result of it, we have a cab policy in place, but it very clearly stipulates that if you are outside of the M25 perimeter, then that does not include you. You can't do that. And it's because we have to be very strict in terms of sort of what we can pay and what we can't pay, because otherwise it would cost too much money. So we know the restrictions here. Why is it that they don't have restrictions? Now, I fully appreciate that obviously you've got members of Parliament who represent all over the country. You can't necessarily implement something like if you're not within the M25. But then I sort of really struggle with this idea of second home, because the second home could mean anything. It's almost their choosing. You know, they would get some sort of very heavily subsidised amount to sort of justify that second home. Whereas I'd actually say, why not build a purpose-built block of flats near Parliament? And if you need somewhere to stay, you stay there.
I completely agree with that. And my local MP, Labour MP, Andy Slaughter, he's a really good guy actually. But
I'd be straight down the registry office. That was my sign.
I know. I've never voted for him, by the way, but he's a nice guy. But you know where I live, right?
I do.
He lives 2 streets away from me. So while I'm walking the Pooches to the park, I go past his place. He was, up until about 6 years ago when they changed the boundaries, he was entitled to a second home. I live in Shepherd's Bush, by the way.
I was going to say, can we just make this very clear?
I live in Shepherd's Bush.
The greatest amount of love and respect. Right, you are a Londoner. You don't live a million miles from Westminster.
No, but he was entitled, under the last drawing of the boundaries, from Shepherd's Bush to Westminster to a second home.
I'm slightly lost for words. Truly, I'm lost for words, because actually that just makes no sense.
Yeah, well, it was true. He never took a second home, by the way, because he was just like, well, that's ridiculous. I mean, I can get on the Central Line and be there in 5 minutes. But
and hats off to him. The fact that he would even take the Central Line to do it.
But he never took it. But you know that there were MPs that did, who lived the same distance. I mean, that's just ludicrous. So although things are changing, I don't think they're changing fast enough in terms of
that's
what
certainly
these
how
MPs
I'd manage expenses. I would say that it's got to be based on whether or not did you absolutely need that because of the job
That's what my accountant does to me. If I have a coffee in the morning, I go, well, you'd have had that anyway. So,
but I sort of think that's a fair
no,
argument.
it's fair enough. It's fair enough.
It might be harsh, but I think it's a fair argument.
He's very... Well, I don't care. I mean, he's good. I've been in with him.
Equally, though, would you charge him for a bottle of water?
Well, yeah.
Why?
No, I wouldn't get away with it. I can't charge anything. I can't charge anything. A newspaper, that's what I can charge. That's about it, really.
Makes sense.
Yeah. But, so I think that MPs, I mean, I think nearly 100 grand, 93,904. I mean, that's a good whack, isn't it?
It's a good wage. I don't think anyone should be under the illusion that it's quite the salary that it used to be in terms of how expensive everything is in this day and age.
But that's their fault.
Don't get me wrong.
That's the MP's fault.
I was going to say, don't get me wrong. Number one is entirely their problem as the reason why things are so expensive. And number two is that I'd also point out that they don't have to live the lifestyle they want to live. They're doing it because they can, and there's a massive difference. If someone was really that hell-bent on earning a decent crust and therefore actually sort of wanting to live a high life, you should really sort of make sure that your wage reflects it in terms of the job you go for. If you go for a job as being an MP knowing that 90 grand or nearly 90 grand is your salary, then you have to live within a 90 grand budget. Don't expect everything else that you'd like as an optional extra to be paid for by the taxpayer. That's ridiculous, because otherwise what's the point of a salary?
Yeah, well, I mean, they must pocket a lot of their salary.
Well, I think they've afforded the chance to pocket a lot of their salary because of the way that we subsidise.
I mean, you've got MPs in London at the moment who have now got grace and favour flats, right? Mentioning no names. But the top of the tree of the Labour government, got grace and favour properties, which are paid for by us. They've also got their second homes, which are paid for by us. And then they rent them out.
And then they have the audacity, by the way,
that's true. That's true. I'm not lying about any of that. It's true.
Anyone who is your average Joe who maybe purchases more than one property, if you are lucky enough to be in a position where you can purchase more than one property,
they really make you pay for it.
Then you pay through the nose for that second property or any other sort of any additional properties, whether it's a case of selling and you pay the most extraordinary amount of capital gains, whether it be through inherited and then you pay inheritance tax on it. It's just outrageous. So we pay for this. They wouldn't.
So there are members of this parliament at the moment with 3 homes.
2 of which are funded by us.
2 of them are funded by us. One of them it will be their constituency property that they have to fund themselves. But they can choose which one is their second home as well. Don't forget that scandal.
Mm-hmm.
So if they wanted to rent out the one in their constituency because they get more money for it, they could then claim that the one in London is their first home. And that one was their second home, and then they could make more money that way. So, and they can switch that whenever they want.
Again,
I should have become an MP.
I totally and utterly wish you should have been. You'd been a heck of a lot better than the current shower. But then, having said that, I think there are skips that are better than the current shower. But it's the point that they set the rules that sort of basically mean that they get to live the high life at our expense tells me everything you need to know. Any MP who takes advantage of that It's very simple. They're not in it for you and me. They're in it for themselves.
Yeah,
simple
right.
as.
I think there is so much latitude given to MPs, and we're supposed to feel grateful for them having to, scum it on 93,900.
We'll have a whip round.
Let's have a whip round. I'd be happy with that. I tell you, I really would. Should we take a break before we hit the
Why
papers?
not, indeed?
Let's
Go on.
do it. I can make that decision.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there, this is Talk and it's Petrie here with you, and with me is Phil Dave, and we are going through the papers. We've got the Miami Herald. I
can never put it down.
Do you know, the one thing I'm really impressed about in America, there are so many local newspapers, there are so many state newspapers. We seem to have sort of lost that a bit in this country. But
a bit?
Yeah.
Well, you know why we've lost it? There's a couple of reasons.
Money.
I mean, I wasn't say, not really sort of go into too detail. I mean, obviously money is a major factor in it, but it's very simple. It's because unfortunately there are various other media outlets now, primarily social media I'm looking at here, which have deprived these industries, including the one we work in, to be honest, of an awful lot of income, because it up until then was pretty much the only way to advertise something. And because social media has taken that away, people are basically now sort of losing positions, losing situations, which means that actually sort of these kind of papers are just untenable. They can't do it. The same is happening in America, but just on a much slower scale.
Much slower pace. I think people like their newspapers over there. You've got all the newspaper stands and you can buy them from any state. If you're in New York, you can buy them from pretty much anywhere. They're just really, really good. So the Miami Herald, Trump has declared that Haiti is safe enough for people to return, although the United Nations has said it isn't. And we know there are gangs, gang violence, massive amounts of gang violence in Haiti. Who should have the final say, do you think?
Haitians, possibly. I think actually the people from Haiti themselves would probably be better off having the final say than anyone telling them one way or another. Although I do have to say, I really would urge anyone to take what the UN says with a massive pinch of salt. The UN has got it very, very wrong on many occasions when it comes to the situation in the Middle East, and I really don't trust them at all anymore. So I'd say that as much as I understand why people used to believe the United Nations was sort of some sort of bastion of all what is sane and sensible, I certainly don't see them in that way anymore. So just because the UN says something, I don't necessarily take... I'd just take it with a pinch of salt.
Well, except we do have news reports from Haiti as well. 5.7 million people, nearly half of the country's population, facing acute hunger because of the gangs, and the gangs have killed more than 4,000 people this year. Yeah,
I mean, I think that the difference...
It doesn't sound safe.
No, not. I think the problem you've got is that President Trump's attitude is probably born out of trying to encourage people to leave the US who he doesn't want to be there.
Or to deport.
That is where he's probably coming from. Whereas with the UN, like I said, I mean, goodness only knows what they're thinking half the time. So that's why I say that I believe that sort of the most sensible thing would be probably for people from Haiti themselves to decide whether or not they are sort of able to return. Now, that having been said, I do understand, as a person who is immeasurably frustrated with the situation we find ourselves in when it comes to migration in this country, that I do understand why there are people in America who are keen for those who sort of have been let in on the basis of relief to be allowed to go back home to as quickly as possible. So I do understand it, but it's got to be the right circumstances. You can't just sort of say, well, we rescued you at the time when it was perilous, but now that it's still perilous, we're going to send you back. If you see, I mean, that doesn't make much sense either.
Yeah, it would be like us sending the Ukrainians back.
Yes, it's
or
sending
like,
it.
Trump is planning to send the Ukrainians back from America.
No, but absolutely, to send Ukrainians back to Ukraine before they actually have the opportunity, really, to either A, rebuild the country, or B, to indeed realise that, or come to an agreement with Russia that sees the war is ended.
Yeah.
And that is obviously sort of where there is this sort of this problem, is it's not the right time, clearly, yet, and I would argue that probably based on photographic evidence alone, not being any expert on Haiti, you understand, photographic evidence alone would suggest it's probably not the right time yet either.
It is shocking.
But
some of the news reports that come out of Haiti are
what
absolutely terrifying.
President Trump should be doing is he should be exercising his position to try and help the people of Haiti to rebuild and to stabilise the region, so to be able to actually
there's been billions, I think, collected for Haiti, and all of it has been pretty much nicked, where nobody knows where it's gone.
Yeah.
The Foreign Office here advises against all travel to Haiti.
Well, there you go.
It's not safe enough. The other story, of course, because it's the Miami Herald, is the remote state-run facility in the Everglades constructed for immigrant detainees. They've called it the Alligator Alcatraz because it's fun.
Yeah, look, obviously there's no denying that sort of to try and be jovial about anything to do with migration is a bit daft. It's you can't really sort of make a joke out of it. It's because ultimately, to those who are serious refugees, and you know, let's be honest, there are those who try and pull the wool over our eyes on this continent and indeed in the Americas as well. The bottom line is that sort of if someone is genuinely fleeing a situation where they want to try and make a new life for themselves, then it's obviously not a joke to them. And I think sort of trying to trivialise what they're going through is obviously not funny. So, you know, clearly from that point of view.
But I mean, and also there's a lack of due process. That I saw a video today about an Iranian man who was on a special, I think it's called an A1 visa, because he was Christian. And he was hounded in Iran, and he sought safety in a Christian country. And he had all the proper paperwork, all the proper visas, everything was proper, and he was arrested by ICE. And when he said, look, I've got all the documentation, they said, it's been revoked. And so this is what's happening at the moment, is that Donald Trump started by saying, we're going to round up criminals, we're just going to get those criminals. And by the way, not having the right paperwork, everyone's going, oh, well, they are criminal. It's a misdemeanor. It's a civil misdemeanor. It's the same as jaywalking. So these people are being arrested on the streets by masked men with violence for the equivalent of jaywalking, when they're doing the right thing and they're going to all their appointments and they're trying their very best, but they're finding out that, like birthright citizenship, if he revokes that and backdates it, that's millions of people who at the moment are legal and next week might not be. And so that's where this is unfair, and they don't have due process. There is no court that they go to. There is no one that determines whether they do have the right to remain, whether they're going to be... If this guy gets sent back to Iran, he will be dead before his feet touch the pavement.
No, listen, there is no denying that sort of course, and this is, I think, one of the biggest problems when it comes to the subject of migration around the world, and that is that everyone wrongly assumes one glove fits all, and it's a really...
So this is a level of cruelty that I don't, that you've only ever seen in history.
No, listen, make no mistake, I'm not saying I condone it. What I do say is that I understand the frustration of many Americans and many British people who have seen a real shift in the makeup of their countries, and I understand why people have been upset by the levels of immigration.
But I mean, the American land itself was stolen from an indigenous Indian population who were brown. You know, I mean, and this seems to be the thing, that being brown in America at the moment seems to be a crime. And people are just being swept up. The ICE have been told to collect 3,000 people a day, so they're not really paying attention to who they're sweeping up. They're now opening a phone line so that neighbours can phone in and go, oh, I think my neighbour might be an illegal. What does that remind you of? And these are human rights abuses. Make no mistake about it. And history will record this. There will be a point. Amnesty's already watching it. All the human rights groups are already watching what's happening. 13 people have died in detention in these detention centres, which are disgusting. I mean, they're wholly inappropriate for any human to live in. And yet they're making a joke calling it alligator Alcatraz.
Yeah,
like some big fun. Christy Nome, who shot a puppy in the face.
I don't think that anyone should be making a joke of any of this, because on both sides of the political fence, whichever way you view the subject of migration, it's not fun. You know,
it's not fun. It's not funny for these people who are terrified and hiding in their homes at the moment.
As I said,
some of them completely and utterly legal, but having their visas revoked.
Yeah. No, listen, I hear
They've done nothing wrong. They're not criminals.
I hear you completely. I would say that there is a fine balance to be had, regardless of where you sit on the political fence.
If he wants the criminals, yeah. Rapists, but due process determines if they're criminal, then chuck them out.
Agreed.
Chuck out people who've been there for 30 years working as a gardener, who's produced 3 sons, all of whom are in the Marines.
And not to mention,
and beat him on the floor.
Have paid into the tax system, and that's probably one of the biggest difference.
They've paid into the tax system.
That is probably one of the biggest difference. I think that sort of if anyone was looking for a barometer to work out what is fair and what is unfair when it comes to migration, is look and see who has contributed to the country that they are lucky enough to call home. And that's the biggest difference. I would say that if anyone was in any doubt as to sort of what makes it fair or not, as to whether or not someone's allowed to live somewhere, let's look into whether or not that person has made both a financial and sort of some sort of, if you like,
social contribution.
Yes, thank you. So looking for social contribution to the society around them. And if the answer to one or both of those is, well, I'd say ideally both of them. But if the answer to those is yes, then of course they should stay where they are. I'm the son of an immigrant. My father is South African. You know, he moved over here in the 1970s. They suddenly revoked his visa now after all these years. I don't know
and
what
they
the heck
took
I'd
your
do.
birthright citizenship away.
Well, luckily my mother's side is British, so that would be a bit tricky, but let's not dwell on that. It's more about the fact that if they did that, I would sort of think they're insane, because he's paid God knows how many tens, if not hundreds of thousands of pounds into the tax system.
This is what is happening in America. So, and because of the numbers that they've been told to sweep up, they're not going, oh, well, we want these gang members. That's what everyone was told.
It's an example of how migration policy is still not right. You know, sort of regardless of you're Democrat or if you're Republican, the problem is the Democrats got it very wrong in recent years, and now the Republicans are just carrying on getting it wrong, but in the other way. So pendulums swung too far the other way, potentially.
So they are already deporting American citizens, and Donald Trump has said that he wants to look at that further. So any American citizen who thinks that they're safe, this is going to get brutal. I'm telling you. It's just awful. I almost can't bear watching the suffering that's going on at the moment. Quickly, the I paper. Labour rebels force Starmer to retreat on benefit cuts again amid chaos in the Commons. So this still didn't go his way, really, although he got it through, but he still had 49 Labour rebels voting against him. And of course this has opened a Pandora's box now. They'll argue with him on everything now.
The one thing that I sort of, and I say sort of in a very loose sense of the word, respected Sir Keir Starmer for, is that ever since he came to power, for the first 6, maybe even 8 months, he stood firm. He said he was going to do something. He said, this is what we're going to do. Said about the farmers' tax, said about winter fuel, all of these different policies that, yes, don't get me wrong, a lot of people hated. And make no mistake, the fact that they got in basically on a 34% technicality of the voting system of this country meant the vast majority of people are going to be unhappy with whatever they do, let's be honest. But the upshot is that he stood his ground. Now he's not even doing that. And it was one of the reasons why I lost respect for certainly Rishi Sunak, but the Conservative government period. I mean, actually, sort of the main thing with the previous Conservative government is I just couldn't bear how lily-livered they were. You know, the way that they just basically sort of seemed to be the left in disguise. It was the only way I could describe them. But with Starmer, at the very least, he seemed to stand his ground, and now he's not even doing that. So whatever smidgen of respect I had from him is well and truly gone.
Yeah, I mean, this is all the doing of reform, because Labour knows that reform is doing really well in those red seat areas, and he needs to appeal to those people. So that's why I believe he's flip-flopping. But this has weakened him beyond. Almost any Prime Minister I've seen for a long time.
I'd be amazed if this time next year Keir Starmer was still Prime Minister.
I made a bet with Kevin on that. I think he'll be gone in a year. I think he'll resign. That's what I
wouldn't be surprised. And it just means that we just carry on the chaos that we've all grown and loved over the last how many years.
The way we'll know he's going to resign is if he emphatically says he's not going to. So let's look out for that.
So in that case, we're emphatically not going for a break.
We're emphatically not going for a break.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there, this is Talk, and it's Petrie, and with me, Phil Dave, and we are going through the papers for Wednesday. The Metro, knife fears of teen stabbed to death at lunch. Harvey, Dad, I'm scared to go to school. This is what this teenager said days before he was finally stabbed with a hunting knife in a row with another pupil. This is also Monday was the knife amnesty day, wasn't it? It was a big knife amnesty across the country. But I mean, I just don't know how how many knives you've got in your kitchen. I mean, it's impossible. You can't round them all up.
Yes, but at the same time, I just don't understand sort of why we don't have more to deter. You know, it's one thing that I completely hate with a fundamental passion about the law in this country. There are many things, but one thing I really hate is anonymity that's granted to minors, right? If someone is old enough to commit a crime, blooming well reveal them, name and shame them, and let them live their life in misery and wallow. I'm sorry, because as far as I'm concerned, if you're going to ruin the life of someone who's totally innocent, why the hell should someone, why on earth should someone who's totally guilty be allowed to carry on living their life normally? There's just nothing right about that.
Well,
there isn't. Sorry, I don't see how that is fair. They've ruined someone's life.
It's not about it. Yeah, I get that. But if you've got like a 13-year-old who is carrying a knife because they want to protect themselves and they end up stabbing somebody, which is normally what happens, you're then writing that kid off as well.
I just don't carry a knife. Two wrongs don't make a right.
We didn't even write off the Bulger killers.
Literally, two wrongs do not make a right. It's just as simple as that. It might be an old-fashioned technique, but it is actually something that has stood the test of time for a very long time. And let's be honest, all of this wishy-washy nonsense that's gone sort of so unbelievably liberal in this country when it comes to crime and punishment is not working either.
No, it isn't. You're absolutely right. Right, Financial Times. Trump, the big, beautiful tax and spend bill moves a step closer after a slim Senate victory. In fact, it was J.D. Vance that got that through.
I was going to say slim is a bit of an
Slim
understatement.
is, yeah, I mean,
wasn't it one vote?
Wafer thin. But it's not cleared yet, but it's likely to be. So that'll be interesting. So that's the FT. The Sun newspaper, buggy useless. Migrant tide hits 20,000. French cops paraded around in a buggy paid for by the UK yesterday as dinghy migrants set sail on yet another shambolic day. I just cannot believe that the PM is doing nothing about this.
It is so unbelievably farcical. I try so hard not to get wound up by the situation with the small boats. But the truth is it's impossible not to, because we are being taken for such mugs. It's unreal. How many more people have to, and I'm sorry you're going to say that this is provocative language, but it is true, break into this country illegally, okay? And to anyone out there who's stupid enough to say, oh, there's no such thing as an illegal migrant, yes, there is. Okay, there absolutely is. Otherwise, why is there not open borders everywhere? Of course there's such a thing as illegal.
I mean, yes,
it's very,
and I've said this before and I will keep repeating it for the sake of what is actually going on here, is that the only place that anyone can apply for asylum or refugee status is on British soil. So at the point that you come to this country and you set foot on British soil, whether you've got a passport or not, it is not illegal. You are illegal when you have been rejected. Now, if we change that law and said, there are 3 other places you can apply for asylum, don't come to the British soil, otherwise you will be illegal, then they would be illegal. But because the rules are that the only way you can claim asylum is to have your feet on British soil, you are not illegal at that point.
But they are illegally entering the country.
No, not as an asylum seeker or a refugee. You are not illegal until you have been rejected.
Yeah, fine, but let's put it this way.
That's the law.
Fine, but let's put it this way. You and I both know that they're not doing it because they have necessarily good intentions.
No,
they're doing
I
it
agree,
because they've
but
got
I'm
a
just
very
giving you the
easy route
fact.
into.
The truth is they are not illegal in legal terms, in the law, until they've been rejected.
But they are still breaking into a country on the grounds that says that as soon as they step foot into this country, then they can start claiming asylum. So the point is that they're not...
No, but that's the only way they can apply it.
Then why are they not doing it by other means? You know, if it was...
Because they
if
are...
it was cheaper, let's be honest,
it
it's
is.
cheaper to take a flight.
I've been saying it for years. I've been saying for years that because you need pay, they are coming in under the pretext in a lot of cases, I'm not naive, of claiming asylum. So, and they know that they are not illegal, which is why they're not arrested and thrown in jail the second they arrive, because they are not illegal, because they know that that is the rule that has been set down. If we had other areas around the world, which we should have, where people can go to claim asylum, then we can say coming to the British soil means you're illegal.
But let's not also forget as well the fact that we could do something about this if we really wanted to by patrolling the waters. If we really wanted to sort of get some sort of
yes, it's only when they hit British soil that they can claim asylum.
It's very simple. Send in the Navy. Do whatever one has to do.
Do what?
Intimidate, right? I'm not being funny, but it's very simple. If you see a whopping great ship approaching you and you're a tiny dinghy...
Well, what are they going to do? Jump off and drown?
Around?
They're not going to go anywhere.
I honestly... do not care. To anyone who's got such ill intention of entering this country and causing mischief and taking advantage of our better nature, I truly don't care for that individual.
So you don't care if they drown in the Channel?
I don't. If they take that risk, I don't care. I don't care about them. And I openly admit...
And you know that before we voted to leave Brexit, we could turn them around and send them back to France, but we can't do that now.
Yeah, so we keep being told. But it's...
But that is the truth, again.
Yes. But even if it is the truth, the upshot is that you could also argue that the European Union are not exactly doing anything to help us because they probably want to punish us for leaving them as well.
I don't think they want to punish us. I just don't think they want them.
Yeah.
I think they don't.
Well, then they know how we feel.
Yeah.
So it's very simple. But I get really wound up by the way that we're not tough with this.
I am shocked that you would say that they can drown.
I don't want them. I don't want people to enter this country because they're going to try and take advantage of our better nature, right?
But
My family, when they came over here...
on that boat, there are two people who genuinely are fleeing persecution, as your family have done, genuinely trying to get to British soil to claim asylum, it's okay for them to drown as well.
I'd rather they didn't if they are genuine. But at the same time,
but this is what's happening, is that we're hating all of them and treating all of them like they're breaking into the country. When I respect and completely agree that many are, but there are some that are not, and we just don't care about them either. As long as they can all drown, we don't care.
It's not about that. I don't think it should be allowed to get that far, and I blame Europe more than anything. The fact that the Union, in particular France, are allowing this to happen when we're paying them an absolute fortune.
Yes, but they're not allowed. They're not allowed, again, by international law. They are not allowed to chase the claimants, the refugees, the asylum seekers, whoever, into the water. They're not allowed to do that.
International law, as you well know, is an agreement, a goodwill agreement between nations. It does not mean that a country is going to be thrown in prison if it breaks international law.
No, but by law, they're not allowed to chase them into the water, and that will probably be for safety reasons on their behalf and safety reasons on behalf of the human beings that are trying to get on a boat. And so what they do now is they get on the boat further down the beach, and then they bring it into the water, and then the refugees, you see them all rushing into the water. They used to do it on the sand, then they could be stopped. But once they're in the water, they can't be stopped. Right. So that is the situation.
Well, I mean, I tell you for nothing, the one way that you actually sort of stop what this boils down to is that it's just too attractive to come here. This is what it boils down to. So,
and yet we're constantly being told what a hellhole Britain is.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's turning into a hellhole because of the way we're treating the country for people who live here already, more than anything. But let's actually sort of focus our attention on actually a second for people who are coming over here. If as soon as you step foot on British soil and you know that you are entitled to a daily amount of money that you can spend however you want, there are people who we now have proven, thanks to our colleagues at The Sun, are actually going out and getting work, regardless of whether or not they're legally allowed to work here or not. As soon as we know that they're going to be put up in hotels, and we know that the government are saying, oh, we're going to put a stop to that. No, do you know how they're going to put a stop to that? They're going to stop putting them into houses instead. That's all they're going to do. They're not turfing anyone out.
No.
It's very simple. We need to put a stop to this, and the way you do it is offer one hell of an incentive for people to not come here by this method. And I genuinely am so sick of people defending the process, whatever happens one way or another. It's very simple, right? There are ways to come...
I don't think anybody's defending what's going on. I'm certainly not defending it.
I'm not saying you do, but people
I'm definitely not defending it. All I'm doing is trying to be factual about it and explain why what is happening, and why people are not immediately arrested and thrown into jail because they haven't broken any law yet. But the truth of the matter is that what needs to be done is that they, as soon as you've been rejected, and they have to be rejected or confirmed very quickly, you are then removed. But we're not even doing that.
Agreed.
So the system, it's not, I don't blame the people for chancing their arm. I blame a system that allows them to do it and to run away and hide and work on the black market for as long as they want to. It's the country is wrong.
As I say, there is
I'd do it if I was them.
Hell of an incentive.
And I was coming from Afghanistan or Iran or Iraq, I'd do it.
I don't blame people for trying to come here, but well, frankly, I don't think the kind of person who would come here and they'd do it because they're sort of economic. I think that they must be a pretty awful human being to take advantage of a country's good nature like that, you know, because then, as you rightly identify, it means those who genuinely are in perilous situations who are fleeing get tarnished with the same brush.
Absolutely, and it's absolutely disgusting that is what happens. Listen, just before we go to a break, I have a Donald J. Trump Truth Social to read to you. My representatives had a long and productive meeting with the Israelis today on Gaza. Israel has agreed to the necessary conditions to finalise the 60-day ceasefire, during which time we will work with all parties to end the war. The Qataris and Egyptians, who've worked very hard to help bring peace, will deliver this final proposal. I hope for the good of the Middle East that Hamas takes this deal, because it will not get better. It will only get worse, shouting. Thank you for your attention to this matter. So there we go.
Trump was the one who managed to implement Abrahamic Accords amongst countries that up until very recently would never have dreamed of making relations with Israel. So as far as I'm concerned, if he's managed it with Gaza, then I think he's only to be applauded.
Yeah, well, I think the Qataris and the Egyptians have managed it with Gaza. Quick break, back in a sec.
UK. On DAB+. On your smart speaker. On your smart TV. And on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there, this is Talk and it's Petrie here with you, with Phil Dave, and we're on the Daily Star now, and they've got my favourite sub-editor working for the newspaper on Wednesday because they've been very boring recently. Jubilant Japsters,
I wondered what that word was as well. I've never heard of it. What is it?
I think it's japesters.
I hope it is, because the other way sounds terrible.
Sounds very rude.
Apologies if that was offensive.
Japesters. It just looks really odd the way they've printed it.
I need to look this up. I confess, I don't know what it is. So
somebody who jokes.
Oh, I
see.
So
jokester. Clowns are back in favour with theatre crowds after ditching the freaky red nose Pennywise image for a modern makeover. What? That's front page news, folks. Send in the clowns. Tickets surge as jesters ditch scary Pennywise look, and they've got Boris Johnson there, which I'm very happy to see, that Boris Johnson has returned to the front page of the Daily Star as a clown.
Whilst Donald Trump is apparently the great Donocchio.
Donocchio, big liar. Gulf of America he's got on his head, which doesn't exist, people. It's the Gulf of Mexico. The Guardian, a welfare bill passes as bruised PM backtracks to avert Labour revolt. And no safe place in Gaza. Dozens die in an IDF hit on a seafront cafe. So let's hope
Hamas says.
Let's hope that Donald Trump's tweet isn't a bit early. And a photograph there, wildfires and warnings as a heat wave hits Europe. You're in a modern build, aren't you?
I am, yes.
That is designed to hold the heat in, right?
Yes, it's very hot in my
Is it really hot?
Because I actually, do you know what? Because Rufus the cat is normally confined when I'm out and about to the living room, because the living room is dual aspect.
Yeah.
It gets very hot in there. So what I've done for today is I've actually allowed him free roam to go into the bathroom as well, because of it having tiles and it's cooler. So
and that's
I'm
at the back
hoping
of
he's
the
taking
flat,
about.
isn't it?
Yeah, there's no windows in that, and it is actually much cooler. So I'm hoping that he's taken advantage of that. I don't know. I mean, he may go back. He might be tanned by the time I get back. I mean, it'd be a clever trick. He's a black cat, so I mean, it'd be a very clever trick.
My boys have got a paddling pool.
In the house?
No, in the garden.
Yes.
Mind you,
I
have concrete floors, so I could have it in the house, I guess. But
well, by the sound of it, you all have a paddling pool in the house.
I'm just showing Phil a picture.
Oh, look at Humphrey.
Humphrey
in a pool.
Humphrey in his paddling pool. So he just runs in and out. He goes into the paddling pool and then runs back in and jumps on me, which cools me down, which is lovely. Right, the Daily Mail, again, 20,000 this year and counting. I mean, horrendous scenes there, the risks these people are taking, but they're all young men. That's the other thing, isn't it, that has to be recognised.
You know, of course, the way that one could actually sort of get around this, I think, relatively easily, putting all jokes to one side, and regardless of what my personal feelings are towards these horrendous individuals, is that if you actually start going after the manufacturers of the rubber dinghies, they're not even subtle. If you actually have a look at this very picture, on the side of that dinghy is a make, is a brand.
Yeah.
Go after them, stop them, actually sort of charge them sort of some hideous tax and say, if your boat is responsible for bringing migrants over illegally, or whatever word you want to use, to British shores, then you will be heavily taxed.
Yeah, I mean, this is the thing. It says that almost most will never leave, and that is also a fault of the system. So the system is just so badly
I blame
run.
both sides. I blame the system. I blame the chancers. I just don't like it at all. I think the whole situation is ridiculous.
I don't think you can blame them. They're just taking an opportunity to get something for nothing, or to get a better life.
They're taking gross advantage of British taxpayers. So these people have not got British values in mind when they arrive here.
Yeah, possibly not. Right, the Daily Telegraph. There's Kate Blanchett there. Do you watch Squid Games? Have you ever seen the Squid Games?
I tried. I didn't get it. I didn't like it.
I've just watched the third and final iteration of the South Korean Squid Games.
Oh.
And the reason I say it like that is because right at the end there is Kate Blanchett, who clearly is recruiting for an American Squid Games.
Oh.
A movie or a series. It's very good. I was very pleased to see that. I was very happy. Anyway, she's at Wimbledon.
It's a good photo, though.
Wonderful photograph.
She's wearing very reflective. If anyone listening to this and can't see the photo, she's wearing some very reflective sunglasses.
Like the Ray-Ban aviators, I think they were called.
She's clearly sat in the royal box and watching Draper play tennis, and the photo has been taken of her with the reflection of the sunglasses, and in her sunglasses you can see the reflection of the playing on court.
It's brilliant. It's a really good picture. Really good picture. Tim Davie fighting for his job as Director General of the BBC.
I don't know why he's still got it. I truly don't.
I mean, he's overseen bullying, paedophiles, sex pests. I mean, all sorts of this.
The misreporting of the Middle East.
Yeah.
I mean, literally, I don't know how many more things can happen under his watch. I genuinely, when Tim Davie first got the job, one of the first things he did, and I truly respected him for this, because his predecessor...
Was he boss when we were there? I think he was.
Yes, just. Because didn't he... George Entwistle was boss when we were there, I think. And then it was before Entwistle was the guy who instigated all of the moving up to Salford, whose name completely escapes me. Is it Mark someone?
I can't remember.
Can't remember. Anyway, the upshot is...
Johnny's.
One of the first things that Tim Davie did when he took over as the Director General of the BBC, and I really respect him for this, is that the Wokerati were trying to stop, in the last night of the proms, certain songs from actually having the words sung, because in case they hurt someone's
Land of Hope and Glory.
Yeah. And fortunately, he put a stop to it, and he said, "No, don't be ridiculous. It's tradition.
No, it's tradition.
Touch it." And that I actually respect him, because I thought, oh, finally, someone who's actually going to bring back the values of the BBC. Honestly, it's gone downhill ever since then. It's just ridiculous.
It went downhill when we left.
Oh, 100%. Well, that goes without saying. Really, they lost
definitely.
2 massive columns then, but it's.
This is a great story. This one is really interesting. 3 hospital bosses have been arrested on suspicion of gross negligence manslaughter in connection with the case of Lucy Letby. And I'm really pleased to see this, because a lot of people dodge their responsibility in positions of power, and they manage to get away with it. So, I mean, they've been arrested, so there's not an awful lot we can say about it. But it is good to see if there is anything like corporate malpractice or anything like that. It is time that we saw arrests.
Well, I think that it's fair. What is fair to say is that it would appear as though that with Letby having been charged and imprisoned, that if you like, there are many who have argued that she is just a scapegoat, and could it be that what we're seeing now is actually proof of that theory? So
or at least blind eyes turned. And it's the same at the BBC, right, with Hugh, what's his name, and turning a blind eye to his behaviours and complaints and things like that. People should be arrested.
People have rubbished the claim that Letby isn't is solely to blame. I think that's fair to say. I mean, there are some people who said she's innocent. Well, she's not innocent. She's been found guilty.
No, she's not innocent.
that is a ridiculous claim.
Yeah.
But to anyone who says that they have that she's been used, if you like, as a scapegoat for others to get off lightly. This is curious to see that this might be the case, but obviously we've got to be careful because they've not actually been charged with anything.
Exactly. I mean, but I want to see people like from the water boards and, places like that arrested as well for corporate mismanagement, or, it is time, and people from councils or even, police services where those grooming gangs were allowed to sort of get away with what they were getting away with for so long. I just think it is time that the circles were widened to capture, everybody who was guilty of turning the other way.
I was going to say, at the very least, guilty of complacency.
Absolutely. The Daily Mirror. Oh, they're offering win 2 Oasis tickets. Well, we're offering win 2 Oasis tickets and £5,000 and a hotel room. So I think we're better than the Mirror. 19th of July.
I don't think about it. I know we are.
What?
I don't think we are. I know we are.
We are. I did the competition earlier.
Yeah.
Yeah. But the Mirror is offering just tickets. So the Mirror also saying welfare bill fiasco. This is right up the Mirror street, isn't it? Completely up their street. Bill passes, but only after government makes last-minute concessions. I think they really wanted to support Keir Starmer, this paper, but they just can't. Relief as PM delays the most controversial PIP eligibility changes. But what this will do is create a two-tier system. So.
And we haven't seen one of those in this country before, have we?
Two-tier Keir. No. So there we go. That is the Mirror. That's it. We've run out of time.
Oh, well.
We've actually managed to go through all the papers, which we
Lord.
never normally do.
No.
Phil, Dave, thank you very much indeed. Right, coming up, it is just you and me, and we're going to be talking about MPs' pay. And the reason I want to talk to you about that is because that you could end up on a citizens' forum to make decisions about how and what MPs get paid in the future. You could also be on that forum to talk about how their expenses should be paid and what expenses they should get. I think they get far too much, but it would be really interesting to see what you think and how you think we should set MPs' pay going forward. This is no joke. This is an actual going to be a citizens' forum. So how would you decide and determine that MPs get paid? Give me a call. I'll be back in just a moment.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Good morning. This is Petrie here with you for the next hour. And just a little bit of breaking news for you. The jury in the P. Diddy trial has reached a partial verdict. So they've reached a verdict on, I think, 4 of the charges, but not on the 5th. So it is up to the judge now whether he or she, I think it's he, accepts the partial verdict or not. So they haven't returned, and they haven't returned the verdict yet, but they have said to the judge, they've sent out a message saying that we've reached agreement on 4 of the 5, but we cannot find a settlement on the 5th. So it's now up to the judge as to whether he accepts the 4 or whether he wants it all packaged together. If he wants it all packaged together and they can't reach a verdict on the 5th, then I believe that is a mistrial. So it'd be interesting to see what happens next with that. And we'll keep you. I'm looking at the screens. There's nothing. I don't think anything else comes in tonight, but it'll be interesting to see what happens tomorrow. Right, we're talking at the moment though about MPs' pay, and the reason I want to talk to you about this is the public have been invited. That's you and me, to decide how MPs' pay should be set. The Independent Parliamentary Standards Authority, IPSA, who are these people that were brought in 2009 to oversee MPs' expenses and MPs' salaries after the scandal that the Telegraph discovered about the way they were abusing their expenses. Their duck house, do you remember that? It was things like that they were doing. So this group will meet 4 times in September. That's us, the Citizens Forum. So IPSA has said they want a Citizens Forum to help shape pay and expenses from next year onwards. The group will meet 4 times in September and make recommendations alongside a wider consultation expected to run until the autumn. IPSA's review will also look at how the pay of British MPs compares to politicians in other countries. Now, I know that British MPs get more than MPs in France and New Zealand here, for example, but less than Ireland, Germany, Canada, Australia and the United States. So we could find that people go, no, pay them more. And there's always that argument, isn't there? Pay them more. Give them 150 grand a year and we'll get their full attention for that, and that'll be it. And they'll give us all their time and energy. But look, they're on nearly 100 grand. MPs. Your constituency MP has a salary of £93,904, to be precise. And your constituency MP then gets expenses. And if they live outside the M25, they also get a second home. And if your constituency MP also happens to be somebody who gets a grace and favour property, Angela Rayner, and Rachel Reeves, and the Prime Minister, Keir Starmer, they've got 3 homes now. So they get the grace and favour one, which is paid for by us in its entirety. Oh, and also, of course, they've got Dorneywood and the other one as well. So they've got 2 grace and favour homes that Angela and Rachel share, which must be fun. Can you imagine? They'd be hiding each other's toothpaste. And he's got Chequers. Right, so that's one home. So Keir Starmer's got Chequers, number 10, his constituency home, and then his home in London as well. That's quite a lot of houses, isn't it, for a Labour MP. Angela Rayner will have the same. She will have her grace and favour, which I think is at Admiralty Arch, I think. Grace and favour property there, paid for by us. Her constituency home, which is probably paid for by her, and then her second home, which is also paid for by us. But she can swap the second home and the first home because she's renting out. They all rent out the home that they're not now needing for the 4 years that they're in their position, or however many years in their position. So look, they do pretty well out of this, is what I'm trying to say. And they also get the expenses as well. I mean, I think it's probably time for the second home allowance to be cut. I think that transport now is better than it ever has been. I think we give them an expenses bill to stay in a hotel. They only need their second home when they're in London on parliamentary business. Right? That's it. That's why they have a second home allowance. But there are more hotels now. There's more Airbnbs. There's transport links are much better. I don't know. They don't need a second home. So I personally, if I was on this forum, I'd say nix the second home. They don't need it. They don't need it. They can stay in a hotel, or we'll build a block of flats for them, and they can stay there. I don't think there's any need for them to have a second home. And they keep their constituency home and stay in a hotel. That's what. Look, okay. Say you live in Birmingham right now, and you work 2 days a week in London. I don't know what your business might be. Maybe you work for an air conditioning company. I'll just say that off the top of my head. Would you be allowed to have a second home because you're in London for 2 days a week? Would your company pay for that? Would the tax man allow that as a second home? I can tell you the answer to that. Absolutely not. So why have MPs got that? They don't need it anymore. Times have changed. So all of these things that they get, all of these expenses that they get, I don't mind their constituency office expenses. I'm happy with that. You know, if you've got to set up an office and you need paper clips, fine. Well, you know, we'll pay for that. But first class tickets, again, when companies are looking to save money, they might say, you've got to go standard class. It's only a couple of hours. I mean, when I was flying around the world as a reporter, I was lucky if I wasn't put in the hold. I mean, seriously, it was only if your flight was over 12 hours without a stop that you were allowed to have anything like, I don't know, a seat. It was terrible. So I don't know why they're getting first class tickets if they're just doing a couple of hours journey. There's no need for it. They don't need it. And maybe this is what separates them from us. Maybe that's why they don't understand what it's like to walk in our shoes, because let's face it, they don't have to walk anywhere. They can get a cab and it's all paid for. And we know the taxi bill for the House of Commons is astronomical, could run a small country. So it seems to me that we've just blindly let these people who are working for us, we are their employers, have whatever they want in the fear that nobody will take the job if we don't. So I'd like to know what you would do. I've told you what I'd do. I would absolutely nix the second home. There is nowadays no need for it. There is no need for any MP to have a home in London. Any of you who work around the country would not have a home in another city because you happen to be there 2 or 3 days a week. It wouldn't happen. You'd stay in a hotel, right? Give me a call. What would you change about MPs and their salaries? There's no point saying, oh, we won't pay them anything, because then we won't get people wanting to have the job. And let's face it, I wouldn't want to be an MP. I say that, but the money is good. But I wouldn't want the job. I mean, it's pretty miz, isn't it? But they are supposed to be working for us. That is their requirement. Is your constituency MP worth £93,904 a year? Or let's not forget how many holidays they have as well. Ridiculous numbers of holidays. 0344 499 1000. You can message me as well, 87222. WhatsApp as well, 0344 499 1000. And you can leave a short voice note there as well, but I would rather talk to you. So please pick up the phone and give me a call. Kevin is in Basingstoke. Hello, Kevin. Kevin?
Morning.
Hello. Hello, Kevin. How are you? Can you hear me, Kevin? Can you hear me, Mother? Hello? Hello? Kev?
Hello?
Kevin, are you there?
Oh, yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
I can. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can now.
What were you doing?
I don't know. I don't know what happened.
You had me on mute, didn't you, you rascal? Right, so Kevin, what do you think about MPs' pay?
Well, personally, I think their wage should only go up with inflation, because if you're on £100,000 a year, you're in the top 2%, and I don't really think you know, it needs to go any higher than that. So
it's a whack of a salary, isn't it? I mean, for anybody who's 93, nearly 94 grand. I mean, you're not far off 100 grand. That is a good salary, especially with all the expenses you get as well.
Well, yeah, and I think it's about another. If you're a cabinet minister, it's another 70,000 on top.
Yeah.
And over the last 20 years, their wage has gone up 50%, and the average wage has gone up 10%.
Yeah.
And also they get an amazing pension if that whatever position they've held over the time being in politics. So if you're a cabinet minister, your pension is 2/3 of your salary. So and then a cabinet minister's pension every year would be about £120,000 a year.
I mean, come on, that's maddening, isn't it?
Yeah, MPs is probably £70,000 a year. Also, someone like Liz Truss, she was Prime Minister for 5 minutes. So, oh no, but she was a cabinet minister, wasn't she? But anyway, their pensions are amazing. Who gets a pension like that? Most people's pension is, I don't know what it is. Is it £12,000 a year?
Yeah.
And they're getting £100,000 a year. And I mean,
it's so maddening. And also, Liz Truss gets to keep her lifelong security detail paid for by us.
What's that? Oh, yeah.
Bodyguards.
Yeah, that's it. Security for life. Yeah.
For life.
And also, a lot of them end up in the House of Lords, where they're earning on top of they earn £400 a day.
Yeah, just short of, I think, a day. That's right. If they clock in and then they go to sleep.
Yeah, there's second jobs as well. I think from 2019 to 2023, so 4 years, MPs made £17 million second job, doing their second jobs. So they're making more on their second jobs than they are as an MP. And I mean, a lot of them get jobs. I'm sure they get those jobs because they are MPs.
Yeah.
Whoever's employing them is buying influence.
Yeah, of course.
So So are they working for us, or are they working for their second job? Which is the main priority for them? The one that's paying you hundreds of tens of thousands, a hell of a lot more than you're getting paid as an MP.
And they go hand in hand, don't they? Because, like you said, they get offered to go on a board of a bank or of a big building company or whatever, and so they get paid really for not even being there, just for having their name associated with it. And there's no such thing as a free lunch. So, if you're on a board of a building company, what are you going to do when Angela Rayner's looking around for a building company that might need to build, 1 million homes in 5 years?
Yeah, I mean, with somebody like Nick Clegg, I think he went to didn't he go to the Standard, and then he went to some worked for some tech companies in America or something.
Yes, did.
Earning, the amount he's earning is eye-watering. I mean, would he have got that job if he wasn't an MP? So there's lots of bonuses that they get on top.
But and he will still get that pension as well when he retires. I mean, this is the thing that people do. You're right, Kevin, to bring up the pension, because it's not something you tend to think about when you're talking about salary. But we also pay for their gold-plated pensions. And when you say they're diamond-plated, really, aren't they? I mean, we could just even dream of earning that, let alone getting that as a pension. And they'll still get their state pension on top of that.
Yeah, and also, I mean, over the last 20 years, do you think that this country has improved much? I think it's in the worst position it was 20 years ago. I mean, look at our national debt. It's gone up £1.7 trillion. Do you think, I mean...
Because of politicians mismanaging and misrunning the country.
Yeah, it seems like it doesn't matter how good they perform or how badly they perform. There's no consequences to it.
And that's it for me, in a nutshell, is the lack of consequence, that no matter what you do as an MP in your constituency, whether you do anything at all, whether you help one person, whether you can't be bothered, you still get paid nearly 100 grand. And there's no checks and balances as far as I know. We can see their voting record, but there's no checks and balances on how often they're in their constituency or what they do when they're there or how much they help. That's what we need.
I mean, there's a certain politician, I won't mention his name because I think quite a lot of your listeners like him. He's not even doing face-to-face surgeries.
Yeah.
He's in America more than he's in wherever he should be.
I agree. And yet he'll still be pulling in that $100,000. And what's he doing with that? You know, it's not like, you know, anybody's getting any sit-down time or help.
Yeah, I mean, when he was at MEP, apparently he had the highest expenses of all MPs at £2 million worth of expenses, you know, over the period he was there, and he had the lowest attendance record.
Yeah, I think that he would say that he was proving a point by taking all that money from expenses. So he'll also have his European MEP pension as well.
Yeah, and he was employing his wife.
Yeah.
And apparently his girlfriend as well, but...
Which one?
Well, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, how do we make sure that... I mean, this is the problem that we've got with MPs, is that I don't know whether they're really in it for us. I think that they might start off that way, but then after a while they think, but you know, I'm earning a really good wedge here, and I can get an executive job, and I can do this, and I can do that, and I can make loads of cash, and I've got a spare house in London.
Well, they're not in it for us, are they? If they was in it for us, we would see, you know, a bigger improvement in our lives, and in, you know, things like hospitals and what's all those things called? The public services?
Oh, yeah, them. Yeah.
Yeah.
That they're destroying. Yeah, I mean, you say that they should be inflation linked. I think that the higher I think their money should be reduced by what inflation is, because they cause the inflation.
Good point.
Yeah, because if it was inflation linked, they could go, well, let's make sure that inflation's up at 30%, so we get more money. So I think they should have their money reduced by the level of inflation. How about that?
That's a good point. I mean, I'll have to give that a bit more of a consideration because he's just thrown that at me. But I mean, it's also things like the House of Commons alcohol bill.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I should have looked that up, but that is huge. And I mean, they get 5-star chefs that cook their food for them in Parliament, and it's all subsidised by the taxpayer.
Yeah. I think I looked this up. There are, I think, 18 subsidised restaurants, cafes, and bars. 18 subsidised. They're in the centre of London. I mean, I would get rid of that. There's no reason why they can't walk out of Westminster and go to a local pub, or nobody knows who they are. They're not in danger. And there's loads of cafes and restaurants around there. They don't need subsidised cafes and bars.
No, you also mentioned second homes. I was saying I did read somewhere that they named some MPs that they were claiming for second homes, but they had a second home in that area anyway, and they used to rent that second home out, their home out, and claim for a second home.
Yeah, or they'd flip them over. I don't think they can claim for a hotel if they claim for a second home, but some of them used to do that. But they can flip which home is the second home as well. So if they've got a lovely place in the New Forest, for example, they can, during the summer months when they can rent that out for a lot of money, they can have that as their second home, and their flat in London as their first home, if they want to.
Yeah. But the thing is, they're always going to be in a better position than anybody else because they make the laws. And I mean, MPs are not going to, make their life harder, are they? They're only going to want more and more.
Yeah. Yeah, turkeys don't vote for Christmas, is the saying, isn't it? But what about this idea of members of the public being asked, though, to go? Would you go to a forum that discussed it?
Yeah, I would. I'd love to go. When you mentioned it, I thought thought to myself, well, how do you get onto this? How do you do it?
It is chosen. It's a lottery, basically. 10,000 homes are chosen from around the country, and there's a lottery to determine 20 to 25 people from that 10,000 homes who will be invited to attend.
Right. So how do you apply to be?
I don't think it's got anything to do with us. I think they decide. But I'd love to be on this. I'd have a field day.
After I've spoken to you, I don't think, if they listen to it, I don't think I'll get a chance.
I don't think they'd want me either, to be fair. I've just taken away their second homes. Listen, it's a pleasure, Kevin, always to talk to you. Thank you so much for calling. Have a wonderful day. I really do. I hope you do. Now, I'm going to take a quick break, but I will be back in just a moment.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello, this is Talk, and it's Petrie here, and we're talking about MPs' pay, because apparently we're being asked our opinion as to how we think they should be paid, and I presume that also includes what they should be paid, and also their expenses. I think they've got far too much latitude when it comes to expenses. There are certain things that you and I cannot claim against our tax bill. We're just not allowed to. If I'm out working, doing a podcast or something like that, and I need to grab some lunch, and I say to my accountant, I grabbed some lunch that day because I was out working, he'd say, and? You'd eat lunch normally, wouldn't you? Yes. Well, in that case, you can't claim it. So it's very strict and getting stricter. So why is it strict for us and it doesn't seem to be quite as strict for them? And when they earn as much money as they do, £93,904, and they get their second home, which is paid for by us, which means all their gas, their electricity, their council tax, all of that stuff is paid. You imagine what that bill comes to. Get rid of second homes. That was always in the day, right? The second homes thing was in the day where it would take you 2 days in a horse and cart to get from Westminster to Chiswick, right? I mean, or to High Wycombe. That's why they had second homes. They don't need that anymore. We've got things like cars, trains, and even planes. And furthermore, there are hotels. Yeah, quite a lot of them in London, quite a lot. And Airbnb. All of these things that are available to MPs now, it is a joke that they still have second homes. No second homes. I don't care. I don't care. If you're coming into London to work, plenty of people do it, plenty of people commute, and they stay in a hotel. And they stay in a hotel commensurate with their earnings or with the level they are in the company. So you get an allowance. Let's say £100 a night allowance for the nights that you're in London, but we want to see the receipts. And by the way, you don't get dinner paid for by us because you'd be eating dinner anyway. So why are we picking up your dinner bill? I can't get away with that. I can't put that against my taxes. Why should you be allowed to? So I think they get too much for what they do. And let's face it, they don't do a lot. So I would say second homes have got to go. There is no need for them anymore. The world has changed. The world has moved on. We don't need, you don't need it. It's ridiculous. 0344 499 1000. Paula. Good morning to you, Paula. How are you?
Good morning, Petrie. I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
I'm very well. Are you coping all right with the heat?
Yesterday, no, I wasn't. I was cursing.
We are rubbish, aren't we?
Oh, we're shocking. We moan when it's cold, we moan when it's warm. But hey ho. But this subject has really got my goat. Really got my goat. I mean, I'm not being funny, but Angela Rayner, she's rough.
Yeah, I struggle to think how Angela Rayner could earn a salary of, well, she'd be on more than that because she's a Deputy Prime Minister, so she'd be about 140 grand.
Yeah, she's rough. And they don't deserve one house, never mind two.
Well, the one house in their constituents.
Where's all the money going from the boat people that come on and go to a hotel and then do one the next day? What's all that about?
Yeah, but let's stick with MPs. So a lot of MPs will live in a constituency, let's say in Liverpool or Manchester or wherever, and then they will have to come to London for a session in Parliament, a vote, a couple of late night voting sessions, which don't happen very often, but, you know, they happen. And that's why they've got a second home. But I just don't see why they need it anymore.
Why do they have a second home?
Yeah, that's why, and we pay for it all.
Yeah, and yet they're taking money off this, that and the other, and other goodness knows what people. I think it's appalling. And Andrea Rayner, she is rough as rough.
I mean, I don't know whether that prohibits her from doing her job properly, but I know what you mean. But yeah, I mean, it's a bit rich, isn't it, when you've got MPs voting on you know, taking money away from disabled people. And yet they've still got...
Yeah. I mean, it's like me, I need that money. I really need that money. And if I was to have that taken away, I would be absolutely mortified.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be able to live a semi-healthful life.
And yeah, you've got these MPs, 94 grand, basically.
94 grand a year? Are they having a laugh?
Yeah.
Or a giraffe?
That's your constituency MP. That's a lot of money.
No, it's a hell of a lot of money. It's absolutely appalling.
And yet there will be those that still think that, well, I mean, look at the vote. The vote, you know...
I just heard what you were saying then before the break, that, you know, when you were doing something here and whatever, and you said there's only a cafe down the corner and they can go there.
Yeah.
They get this, that and the other for the meals.
Yeah, that's all subsidised in Westminster. All these 18 bars, cafes and restaurants are all subsidised by us. So they get cheaper meals.
I heard from Andre once, actually. Andre said you can get, what was it now? I've got this, you know what I've got, don't you? When I forget stuff. Lobster meal. He said you can get a top-notch lobster meal for £30. He said that's in Westminster. He said.
Yeah, it's all subsidised, and there is absolutely no need for it because it's right. Westminster is right bang smack in the middle of town. There are loads of bars, loads of cafes, loads of restaurants.
Oh no, there is. I've been many times.
Yeah, and they don't need them all to be, inside. It's not. I mean, most of them are staffers who you wouldn't know. It's like the BBC. Most people there are not the famous ones, right? So it's the same in the Commons. Nobody knows who they are, so they could go anywhere.
Absolutely not.
So it's not like it's a security issue.
No, God.
I think they're too spoiled. I genuinely think they're too spoiled.
They just think, oh well, I'm not going round corner when I can get so and so from Westminster.
Yeah, and I can get a cheaper meal.
That's why.
Yeah, and it's all, they can't be bothered, and it's cheaper inside because it's subsidised. We pay for it, or we pay for some of it. So that's the other thing.
But then you, when your accountant speaks to you when you went, oh well, I was going for lunch.
Yeah.
And you get charged for it.
Yeah, I promise you, it's like, no, you can't put that against your tax bill because you would have eaten anyway. That's what he always says to me. I've given up trying now.
Goodness me.
Giving up trying now. There's no point. I don't put anything through.
Oh, that is absolutely appalling.
Yeah, but it's I don't mind if that's the rule for everybody. If that's the rule for all of us, then that's fine. But what I can't stand is when it appears they're getting better terms than the rest of us who are working really hard to pay their wages, and they're earning more than we are, and we're paying their wages. It feels a bit wrong. Paula, lovely to talk to you. I hope you're well. I hope you have a better day tomorrow. 0344 499 1000. What would you do about MPs' pay?
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hi there, good morning to you. This is Talk and it's Petrie. And we're talking about MPs' pay because the public have been invited to decide how MPs' pay should be set. And the public is also being asked directly, for the first time this has ever been done on MPs' pay, about their expenses as well. So this isn't all of us, unfortunately. It should really be put to a referendum, shouldn't it, of some sort, but mind you, they're expensive. But basically, there will be a form of lottery. I mean, I'd rather win the other form of lottery, but, you know, this is a lottery of 10,000 homes across the country. All you have to do is be 18 years or over, and you do not need any prior knowledge or interest in politics. I think they're probably hoping that you'll just go, well, I don't know what you do, here's 120 grand. I don't know. But so that's it. It's a latest example of a British body using a so-called citizens' assembly model when making a decision. It's been used before in Scotland and in Ireland. And now Sue Gray has decided that it should be used in this instance. It is the first time that the public have been asked directly to get involved in what happens with MPs' pay, and I think it's long overdue. Like I said, I'd do a fundamental clear-out. No subsidised cafes, restaurants and bars, SOZA, and no second homes. There's absolutely no need for it anymore. It's not horse and carriage, it's not 3 days to High Wycombe anymore. That's it. You can stay in a hotel, or you can blooming well get on the late train and go home. Angie has said they should give them a flat rate of 120 grand and be provided with an apartment/flat in a block built specifically for MPs instead of separate homes. That would cut down on the costs and prove, as Starmer says, that they go into it for public service duty. For some reason, I can't see that ever happening, though. No, the idea of having a collected sort of, I don't think even you need to do that. I think MPs are quite capable of staying in a hotel, and it's not like London really ever runs out of rooms. And there are Airbnbs, everything. I mean, I've got a sofa. I will, you know, if you want to, that's fine. I don't care. So, you know, there's no need for it anymore. They don't need their own house or flat in London. It's ridiculous. It's historical. It comes from so long ago, and they've wanted to keep it, obviously, because they get a free house in London. I mean, free. If it's on a mortgage, we pay the mortgage. Yeah. If the council tax, paid for by us. Heating, paid for by us. I mean, do you know what I'd do? I'd move from the constituency house in the winter and stay in my London house and have the heating on and the windows open and we're going, oh, blimey, it's hot in here, because I'm not paying the bill. That's exactly why I shouldn't be an MP, to be fair. So Andrew says pay them a flat rate of 120. I'd go for that if it got them out of their second homes, because those second homes cost us millions and they don't need them. They want them, of course they do, but they don't need them. And also it should be that they're allowed to rent them. Mind you, we're paying that rent. They shouldn't be allowed to buy them, because then we've paid their mortgage for however many years, and then they can just sell the place and they take the profit. We don't get the profit. And maybe if we pay their mortgage and then they sell the property, we should get the profit that they make. Do you see what I mean? They're getting it all. They're getting it all their own way. Oh, this one's a little severe. MPs should not be paid at all. Well, they didn't used to be, did they? It was landed gentry that did it. They shouldn't be paid at all. They're public servants and should do the job for free for the common good of the people. The whole system is corrupt. Yeah, would you though? I mean, I wouldn't turn up here for the good of the people without being paid. I mean, no offence. I mean, I love talking to you, but I do need to get paid for it. So I think that's a little extreme. This one, Aaron in Belfast, he says MPs do a bad job. Well, they certainly do in Belfast, don't they? Blimey. It's not safe being an MP, though, and they have to go to the biggest dumps in the country. I wouldn't fancy being an MP, but I would like their wage. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I think they do pretty well. I think they do all right, don't they? And they don't, like I said, they can stay in their second home. Maybe that's why they're not in their constituencies very often. They're in London, going to the theatre and having meals that we pay for. Maybe that's why they're not. Maybe if they didn't have a second home, they'd spend more time in their actual home, in their constituencies, working for the people that pay their wages. Maybe that's the other upshot of getting rid of the second home. Ali is in West Yorkshire. Hello, good morning.
Hi, good morning. How are you?
I'm good, Ali. How are you?
Yeah, good.
Good. What do you think about MPs' pay? I mean, I'm fuming now about the second homes thing. I think that should definitely go.
Yeah. If I had like the power to choose what I could pay them, I would pay them zero, to be honest. But obviously, I know you can't.
Is that performance related?
just zero, full stop.
Now, your performance rated pay this month is nothing.
Yeah. Yeah, but obviously no. Yeah, they should have a set salary, but like no expenses and everything. They should just pay for themselves, because if they should have earned money in their lives before being a politician, so they shouldn't need expenses and us to pay for things they have to do. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I think, look, most business people have expenses of some kind, all right? If you've got to get a train because you need to be at a meeting, you would expect that to be paid for by the company or by your expenses. Yeah. But you don't need it to be first class, right? And you don't, you don't, it's that. It's just that extra inch, you know, all these cafes and bars they've got in Westminster, why do they need to be subsidised?
Yeah, do you know what it is? I'm not being rude, but like the current collection of politicians are just the most second-rate. I think in the history of Britain, like if you go back 10, 15, 20 years ago, like MPs in this country were amazing. Like worldwide, they were respected. But now they're so second-rate, they're laughed at.
Well, do you know why? It's because all the big beasts. Do you remember when all the big beasts left? The big beasts of and something like 270 years of experience left Westminster in a matter of weeks, because you had all these parliamentarians that had been there for years, and you know, mostly men, you know, who knew the system, knew what they were doing, and they all left.
Was that in 2019?
Yeah.
Sorry. You're right. Yeah. I think
they all left at the same time, and we lost all of that parliamentary experience. And since then, gone down the drain.
Yeah.
I really believe that. I think there was that mass exodus and we've just lost any sort of gravitas or experience or knowledge or anything. It's being run by idiots now.
Yeah, it's not just politicians though. It's also expenses of the royal family, which of course the mainstream media don't want to. People don't want to talk about that, but that's another thing that needs to be looked at as well, to be honest.
But they did hand over. This is the other thing, is that they did hand over the duchy, the Crown Estate. Sorry, so the Crown Estate is like Regent Street, Oxford, all those shops and things like that pays in, and that's £1 billion. They handed that over to the government, and from that they get paid.
Right.
Otherwise, they could have kept that.
Okay, but there's still a lot of the expenses are covered by the taxpayer, though. Like.
Well, I mean, William and the King, they pay tax. And on the Duchy of Cornwall, which is the biggest moneymaker for them, and the land that they've got, they do pay the top rate of tax on all of that. There is, of course, some public expenditure, and there has to be, because of the palaces need upkeeping. They don't really belong to the king anymore; they belong to the country. So, I mean, I'm no fan. I'm not a fan of the royal family. I'm not defending them at all. But I'm just saying that's the way that it has been worked out. They handed over the Crown Estates to the government, so they take all of that money, and from that money they give money to the royal family. So, in a sense, if you want to say that that's taxpayers' money because the Crown Estate has been given to the government, which is therefore us, and from that they're paid, then yes, that is, in a sense, the taxpayer paying. But do you see what I mean? It's a bit of a bit of a fudge. And a lot of these Republicans will say, well, the taxpayer are paying this money. And you go, yeah, we are officially, but the money to do that has come from the Crown Estates. So it's a bit of a... But should they get any of it? I don't know. That's up to you. But so what would you pay MPs? They're on 94 grand.
I would probably pay them, okay, maybe 100k, but then have them no expenses, like everything they prepare everything else to pay themselves, just a salary, and that's it. That's what I would do.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Another thing, sorry, is that they get donations from lobby groups as well, special interest groups. That's not talked about enough. I mean, how much the Israel lobby has given to politicians. Like I read online, it said a third of MPs in Parliament have got money directly from Israel lobby groups.
I mean, it wouldn't surprise me. I mean, it's all brown envelopes, isn't it? I mean, it wouldn't surprise me. The whole system is set up for abuse.
It's out in the open. It's all online. If you research, like, pro-Israel lobby groups, how much they've donated, it's all online. It's literally out in the open. It's, like, so transparent. So
I suppose that's one thing. But, yeah, no, it is... the whole system is set up for the individuals there to make as much money as they possibly can, and a lot of it comes from us, Ali. That's what annoys me, is that they actually are supposed to work for us and we pay their wages, and they're earning more than the rest of us put together. Ali, great to talk to you as ever. I've got to take a break, but I will be back in just a moment.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there, good morning. This is Talk, and it's Petrie here with you for the next 10 minutes. And a couple more messages here. I would turn the House of Commons into one big Zoom meeting and pay them minimum wage for working from home. From Andrew in Salisbury. Well, they'd be as much good, wouldn't they? And maybe if they were working... Which home, though? Which home? Maybe there'd be much more use in their constituency where they're meant to be and actually helping people, which is what their job is. Yeah, their job isn't to swan around Westminster having lovely meals that are subsidised by us. Their job is to be in the constituency helping the people who, voted for them. Joanna says, I'd love the job of MP, or I'd love the job of the MP's pay. As you said, they would have to earn it and actually vote. I'm so annoyed at how often, if you go to a website called They Work For Us, you can see the voting records of all the MPs. That's where I get my information from, a lot of my information from. You look at that website, it's open to the public, and it shows every MP and what they voted yes to or no to or abstained from. And loads of them abstain, and they should never be allowed to abstain. For that money, you vote yes or no. That's your job. Talk to your constituents. You know what votes are coming up. Ask them what they want you to vote. MPs are just a conduit for us. They've forgotten that as well. So they go to their constituents say, yes, I do want that, or no, I don't want that. And then no matter what they think, right, it's not about them, they come down to Westminster and they vote according to what their constituents want. That's the point of MPs. That's been lost in the shadow of time, hasn't it? Anyway, no personal expenses, says Joanna as well. They don't need a second home in London. A reasonable costing hotel, especially for MPs, far more economical and better security. I agree. I hope that includes the Speaker, Lindsay Hoyle. Yes. Far too much power. £7 million refurbishing his apartments in London. Marble bathrooms, £7,500 on a bed, and a £51,000 on a portrait, which probably doesn't belong to him. It'll belong to the Grace and Favour property. That doesn't include all his fancy trips in top hotels and restaurants. It definitely needs them all cut down to size. I mean, his expenses have been outrageous. I've got to accept that. But Angela Rayner's new place as well, $1 million spent on that. But it's because it's Grace and Favour. It doesn't belong to her, it belongs to the country, and so they do it up, and then they can go in and spend what they like on refurbing it. And what I am thinking, though, it does make me smile every day, that Keir Starmer hasn't done up, I don't think, number 10, or was it number 11 where Johnson lived? Can't remember. Anyway, you know that they went in and put all that disgusting wallpaper in and everything like that. I don't think that's gone yet. So it's either Rachel Reeves or it's Keir Starmer's living with that, which does make me feel a little bit better. Let's speak to Darren, who's in Peterborough and is a first-time caller. Good morning, Darren.
Good morning, Petrie. And you know what? It was lovely to hear you speak, but I want to give you this. I served 22 years in the Royal Marines, and not once have I voted. Okay?
Okay.
So it's all done by proxy. It's done by the Commander-in-Chief or the Commanding Officer on board any vessel or any establishment you was in. I've never voted, so therefore I vote by proxy.
Right.
So the argument would be, I don't even know what country I'm living in, because it is an embarrassment. I've literally done 22 years. I've left with 2.5 years ago, and I've come out.
So you're in the Navy?
Royal Marines.
Royal Marines, okay.
Yeah, and my life is totally, you know, I've come out. What country is this? I'm not going to live in England when I get my pension. Well, I've already got it, gratuity, lump sum, you know.
Right.
I'm going to get my. I'm going to go to Canada. And
I envy you. I'd love to go to Canada.
This is life, though. It's the reason for not wanting to live in my country. It's, you know, for exactly all the reasons, Petrie, you and all the listeners, everyone's been talking about. It's about all the crap, excuse my French, all the problems that everyone's got. Why do I need that in my life? I don't need it, do I?
No, listen, I agree. We're in an extremely weird timeline, right? It's honestly, one of my colleagues had the theory that when the Hadron Collider, when they split the atom.
Collider or kaleidoscope?
Collider, the Hadron. When that happened, somehow we were pushed into a different timeline. Because everything since then has been weird. And I'm beginning to buy that theory now. I thought it was nuts to begin with.
Honestly, I mean, what is this country? I do not know. And you know what I find really strange? Is the way that people gob off and just, you know, they've got no proactiveness, no diligence. They've got nothing about them, no spine, no nothing. And it's all just false pretense. The fact of the matter is, I signed up for Queen and Country. Now, God bless her soul. That's what I did, okay? And life is, well, life as I know it, was my queen, my country. But we haven't got a country anymore. So what happens is these little backstabbing little swine hunts, and that they just go and stab each other, and they just try and nitpick. And no one ever says the truth. No one. Because all I ever want in my life is the truth. When do I know I'm going to get my pension? When do I know that? Just stop lying.
I'm with you, Darren. Honestly, I hear you, because it frustrates the hell out of me. I'm so fed up with the political class. It's all absolute nonsense. You know that they're not doing any work. They don't care. And the rest of society as well. The rest of society is selfish as well.
They're just wordsmiths.
Yeah.
Just basically, they're very good. They probably went to Harvard, well, not Harvard, but Oxford or Cambridge, and they understood literature. So they understood William Shakespeare. And what they do, and I don't know if you notice, right, because I do this a lot, and I'm really sad, because I've got a lot of time on my hands. You know, I'm an engineer anyway, but I don't need to work because I'm still getting my pension because I've done more than 22 years.
Yeah, you've done your service.
I deserve it.
Yeah.
However, I just see just people passing the buck and, you know, point scoring and people clapping. And I watched the, question time. And
Prime Minister's questions and all of that.
I'll tell you what. You say something to me and then I'm going to clap when it sounds like it's relevant or good. The fact of the matter is, Bob, that I've served my country and I put my name on the guideline and I've negated my life.
Yeah.
I've got 2 children by 2 different women, but I'm a good dad. I'm trying to be a good dad. But they took that away from me. And it's not just that. It's about how people can just, oh, God, it's so...
But you see, what you gave, Darren, what you gave was service.
It's infuriating, Bab.
Yeah, you were in service to this country. You gave service to this country. You would have died for this country. These monkeys in